Hello everyone, this is Fanfic Audiobook. Here you find original fan made audio stories.
Reborn as a god. Greek mythology beginning. Part 3. Become the Sea King. Polos's words sent a shock through Amphitrite's heart. This was something she had never thought of, and never dared to think of. Immediately, a strange light flashed in her eyes as she looked at Polos. It seems you have made up your mind to overthrow Zeus's throne and become the king of the gods yourself. As the queen of the sea, Amphitrite's wisdom was not to be underestimated. From Polos's words, she had already discerned his intentions. That's right. Since I bear such a destiny, why shouldn't I pursue it? Polos admitted his ambition, extending a hand toward Amphitrite. So, what do you say, my future Sea King? Are you willing to join me in a great adventure to change this world? As he spoke, he employed faith divine power. A holy light seemed to rise from behind him, illuminating the cold, desolate temple. A new divine path. Amphitrite looked at the holy light behind Polos, and a sliver of warmth immediately blossomed within her icy heart. Behind this radiance, she saw a path that seemed to lead to divine greatness. It was indescribable, yet it filled her with immense awe. This light and this path filled her with longing. Thinking of her current plight, Amphitrite gritted her teeth and grasped Polos's outstretched hand. Polos, I am willing to help you. But until we have sufficient strength, I will not expose myself. Reason told her that the power of the two of them alone was absolutely insufficient to overthrow the Olympian pantheon. Even standing with Polos, it would require long-term struggle and planning to achieve their goal. Naturally. You are my first subordinate god. I would not dream of letting you fall into danger. Polos smiled, producing a vibrant green leaf. He said to Amphitrite, swallow this, recite the prayer, and I will help you grow stronger, possessing power surpassing even my own. Amphitrite looked at this ancient, mysterious leaf and received the prayer from Polos. Though it felt somewhat overbearing, she had already made the decision to change her situation and did not refuse. Thus, the beautiful sea queen did not hesitate further and directly swallowed the leaf. Then, she knelt on one knee before Polos and recited the prayer. I, Amphitrite, in the name of the kingdom, revere the tree of life as the supreme tree, and the master of the tree of life as the sovereign Lord, the eternal creator. You are the one, and the all, the primordial beginning, and the end of all things. No matter the path ahead, faith shall not perish. Compared to the covenant used when rescuing Métis, goddess of wisdom, this prayer was less harsh, but its essence was largely similar. The leaf Amphitrite swallowed represented the foundation of kingdom, the first cornerstone of the faith god path, the path Polos had already walked. Originally, he had intended to hold the kingdom cornerstone himself. But after meeting Amphitrite, he changed his mind. For him to hold the kingdom cornerstone, with the godhood pathway of the mystery system hidden within it, seemed somewhat wasteful. The mystery system godhood pathway concealed within the kingdom cornerstone was actually quite suited to Amphitrite. Polos looked forward to her becoming a sequence true god of that system in the shortest possible time and displaying its might. That way, he would naturally gain half the power of an old one. Thinking of this, Polos stretched out a hand and whispered softly, as if murmuring to himself, staff, come. He did not use the divine language of this world. It seemed like two simple syllables appeared beside Amphitrite's ear. She did not understand their meaning, and no god in this world could. But the tree of life in the distant sea heard Polos's call. Using an inconceivably mysterious method, it tore through space, arriving directly from that sea into Amphitrite's temple. It was a divine staff, one Amphitrite had never seen before. She did not know what material the staff's body was made of, but it made her feel a trace of fear and even a sense of aversion. However, the peculiar pattern on the staff, seemingly formed of branches, filled her with joy and longing. This conflicting sensation felt truly strange to Amphitrite. Amphitrite, do not resist. You will receive my blessing, gain greater power, and step onto a broader divine path. After saying this, Polos raised the divine staff high. The lowest point on the tree-shaped pattern upon it shone brilliantly, forming a suction force that continuously drew Amphitrite in. As she was being drawn into the strangely shaped tree on the staff, Amphitrite felt a moment of alarm. Then she remembered she was now essentially Polos's subordinate god, he had no reason to harm her. Thus, she abandoned resistance and was directly absorbed into a small point on the divine staff. Viewed from outside, it was a mere point. But upon entering, Amphitrite understood it was actually a primordial world. In this world, there was neither light nor darkness, no concept of time, and no concept of space. Yet strands of information flowed naturally into her mind. This information consisted mainly of two categories. The first was the method of absorbing faith to condense divine power, and the pathway of utilizing faith divine power to transform into an angel. Amphitrite understood this must be the divine path represented by the holy light behind Polos. What she had obtained was the kingdom cornerstone, representing the foundation of the material realm's birth. In the future, she was destined to govern Polos' divine kingdom and manage the primordial material realm on his behalf. The faith path granted to her by the Tree of Life was also related to this. Unlike Polos, who needed to start from kingdom and ascend step by step toward the highest point of the Tree of Life, even transcending it, Amphitrite's faith path was rooted in Polos himself. The stronger Polos became and the more followers he had, the stronger her faith divine power would be. The Book of Kingdom. The specific cultivation method of the divine path was transmitted to Amphitrite by the Tree of Life in the form of the Book of Kingdom. She did not rush to study the contents of this book, but began to receive the second category of inheritance. This inheritance seemed somewhat more peculiar, a godhood pathway named Tyrant. Sailor, Raging Folk, Navigator, Wind Blessed, Ocean Songster, Disaster Priest, Sea King, Catastrophe, Thunder God, Tyrant. The sequence, from low to high, was actually a method for mortals to become true gods. No, mortals lack Beyonder characteristics and cannot embark on this path. It was then that Amphitrite realized what the green leaf Polos had her swallow contained. It actually contained all the Beyonder characteristics required for this divine path, from sequence 9 to sequence true God. All she needed to do was fully integrate these Beyonder characteristics into herself, comprehend the mysteries behind this pathway, complete certain rituals, and she could embark on this equally unique divine path. According to the descriptions within, the level of sequence tyrant should be no lower than that of a chief god who has established their own divine system. Amphitrite, Queen of the Sea, had long been a chief god, though she had not yet opened her own divine system. Still, she had a very clear understanding of the power at that level. After Amphitrite entered the origin point of the Tree of Life, Polos did not leave her palace. Instead, he sat upon her divine throne, perusing the Book of Kingdom that had appeared in his mind. As Amphitrite's master, he naturally gained everything she obtained within. This holy book detailed the method of solidifying faith, using the kingdom cornerstone to become an archangel, even the vice-ruler of heaven. For Polos, it was of little use. It was likely a divine path deduced specifically for his future angels when the heart of Janmu transformed into the Tree of Life. An angel was equivalent to a chief god. An archangel was already above a chief god. As for the vice-ruler of heaven, Polos did not know if it could compare to the ultra-primordial gods of this world. After finishing the Book of Kingdom, Polos saw Amphitrite was still inside receiving information. Unhurried, he began to play with the divine staff wrapped in the branches and leaves of the Tree of Life. Looking at the staff, he thought of Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. This final daughter of Uranus had cleanly and decisively sold him out, something Polos had not expected. If she had concealed even a little, not revealing that Polos had obtained the divine artifact left by Uranus, Polos would have given her another chance. After all, the sea-calming needle of the first king of the gods inherently countered the power of the earth. If it provoked Earth Mother Gaia's attention, he might have difficulty setting foot on land for the time being. I hope Earth Mother Gaia has no interest in seeking me out. Compared to King of the Gods Zeus, Polos was more wary of Earth Mother Gaia. 3 generations of kings of the gods were her descendants. 90% of the world's gods were of her bloodline. In the original evolution of mythology, almost all the gods of Olympus were buried by time, replaced by Yahweh's heaven. Only Earth Mother Gaia remained, existing as the Gaia consciousness, not obliterated. Polos played with the staff of life while pondering the path ahead, completely unaware that the power of the law of desire within the divine staff had been stirred by him, permeating the empty temple. He was the master of the staff of life, unaffected by the law's power, and thus paid it no mind. Only when information came from the Tree of Life that Amphitrite had temporarily absorbed all the information did Polos snap back to attention. Will you comprehend these 2 divine paths inside, or come out to study them? Polos's voice transmitted inside, heard by Amphitrite. She represented the kingdom cornerstone, the path Polos had already walked. He could freely control her entry and exit. This was unlike Métis, who represented wisdom. Polos had not yet reached that step and found it difficult to control that cornerstone's origin point. All come out. For the subsequent Sequence 2 Catastrophe, Sequence 1 Thunder God, and Sequence Tyrant, I will need to prepare rituals in reality to advance. Hearing the answer from Amphitrite, Queen of the Sea, Polos understood that the power he could currently obtain from Métis via the White Tower pathway likely only extended to Sequence 2 Cherub. Métis' strength was inferior to Amphitrite's. In the foundation of wisdom, she could at most reach the Sequence 3 Seer stage. After all, the systems are different, one must advance step by step to reach the end. Polos controlled the Tree of Life and released Amphitrite, Queen of the Sea. After Amphitrite emerged, she bowed respectfully to Polos. Thank you for your grace, my lord. After reading the Book of Kingdoms, learning about the vast path within, and obtaining the deification method from the Tyrant series, which made her feel she truly possessed the foundation to become the ruler of the ocean, she was already willing to completely submit to Polos, taking Polos as her god and lord. Grow well. I look forward to your future. Polos was about to impart one of the 10 arts of destiny to her when, suddenly, he saw a blush appear on the face of the goddess before him. Her cold and beautiful face gained a touch of charm, and her majestic demeanor was imbued with a captivating desire for conquest. My lord, what are you? Amphitrite was a chief god, and one who had been queen of the sea for many years, on the verge of establishing her own divine system. She immediately noticed a change in herself, influenced by the law of lust pervading the great hall. And in the temple, besides her, there was only her newly acknowledged Lord, Polos. Clearly, these laws of lust originated from him. My lord, what are you? She was not Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, capable of expelling these laws, but she did not rush to act, instead looking at Polos with a flushed face. Polos was inherently a lecherous god. Seeing Amphitrite's cold yet charming appearance, how could he hold back? Without hesitation, he pulled Amphitrite, Poseidon's queen of the sea, onto the seat, directly seating her on his body. As they engaged in intimate contact, the laws of power within the temple amplified the enchanting atmosphere. He had been with Hestia before, one of the famous 3 virgin goddesses, who was not easy to approach. Polos had neither the intention nor the strength to force her. Since his few intimate encounters with Aphrodite in the seashell, he had not known the taste of flesh for decades. For a god in Greek mythology, this was somewhat absurd. Finally, under Amphitrite's feigned resistance, he could once again do what a Greek god should do. Especially since the object of his affection was Poseidon, king of the sea's wife, which filled Polos with even greater joy. At this moment, he was even contemplating whether to snatch Hades, king of the underworld's wife. The 3 brother gods should have the same treatment. He did not know that while he and Amphitrite, Queen of the Sea, were intimately entwined for many days in the Queen of the Sea's temple, enjoying their pleasure, Hades, king of the underworld, finally found the place he had been searching for so long. This place was called Sicily. Zeus's second eldest sister, Demeter, goddess of the harvest, after realizing that her younger brother, the king of gods, had unusual intentions towards their daughter Persephone, took her daughter and secluded themselves in this place. Compared to other goddesses, Persephone loved flowers very much. She could even frolic in the fields of flowers all day long. Although she was much older than goddesses like Athena and Artemis, due to Demeter, goddess of harvest's protection, she appeared more innocent and naive than them. On this day, as she was picking flowers in the fields of Sicily, a crack suddenly opened in the cliff, and Hades, king of the underworld, drove out from it in a golden, glittering chariot. Hades's original purpose in coming was to take away his beloved sister, Demeter, goddess of the harvest. But when he saw Persephone, who resembled Demeter but was much younger, he was instantly smitten. His mother had already been taken by Zeus. At this time, it was not yet time for him to completely break with Zeus, so he would take the daughter. Thus, he forcibly carried Persephone onto his chariot and drove back to the underworld. When Demeter heard her daughter's cries for help and rushed to the fields, her daughter was already nowhere to be found. Demeter searched all over Sicily but ultimately found nothing. In her despair, she was gloomy all day, and her divine power laws naturally spread with her authority. She had no intention of controlling them, causing all the crops on the island to wither, and the entire island became desolate and barren. Hades, king of the underworld's actions were witnessed by Helios, god of the sun, who was patrolling the sky, and he informed Demeter of the matter. Upon hearing this news, Demeter immediately went to her other brother, who was also Persephone's biological father, king of the gods Zeus, to ask for his help in getting Persephone back. Who knew that Zeus, king of the gods, who had once been madly in love with Demeter, remained silent on his throne after learning that his daughter had been taken by Hades. And her other sister, Hera, queen of the gods, kept persuading her to give up on getting Persephone back. This way, she could become Hades, king of the underworld's wife, and half-ruler of the underworld. Very well, you are all very well. Truly worthy of being the king of gods and queen of the gods. Demeter was heartbroken and left the Olympian pantheon to go to the human world to find her eldest sister Hestia, hoping to ask for her help. Oh no, Triton is here. Polos was rarely so happy, so he stayed with Amphitrite, queen of the sea, day after day, for over half a month. On this day, Amphitrite hastily tidied herself and Polos, but her son Triton had already burst in. She quickly pushed Polos behind her, covering his appearance with divine power to prevent Triton from seeing his face. After all, Polos was Mount Olympus's number one, most wanted criminal, valued at the position of one of the 12 Olympian gods, plus the identity of Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty's husband. Amphitrite knew without thinking that Triton would make a move if he knew Polos's identity. She didn't want to fight her son, and Polos didn't want to be exposed at this moment. After being blocked by Amphitrite, he silently put on the belt of deception again and began to change his appearance. The only son of the king of the seas and queen of the sea witnessed a scene that left him dumbfounded. His respected mother was disheveled and with another god. The situation in the hall was clear. This was an affair. Mother, who is he? How can you do this to father? It would have been better if Triton hadn't mentioned Poseidon. As soon as he did, Amphitrite immediately sneered. What, only Poseidon is allowed to find goddesses outside, but I can't find a god. But he is the king of the seas, your status is noble because of him. Amphitrite angrily retorted. So what? You can tell him to find another queen of the sea, I no longer care. What are you saying? Triton's face was filled with disbelief. His mother, who had always valued her identity as queen of the sea, would actually say such words. Amphitrite coldly stated. That's what I mean. Whoever wants this position of queen of the sea can have it. You can tell Poseidon. Now, I am going to send my lover to the land. Actually, even if Triton hadn't come, Polos had planned to end his pleasure with Amphitrite that day, because it seemed there had been a change among the silver humans on Earth. The amount of faith power he had recently received had decreased significantly, but the quality of the remaining faith power seemed purer. He was truly curious and had to temporarily leave the joyful queen of the sea's temple. Amphitrite, under her son's stunned gaze, departed with her lover. They had just landed and had not yet encountered humans when they saw the god Amphitrite least wanted to see, Poseidon, king of the seas. Amphitrite, isn't that your husband, Poseidon? Polos and the queen of the sea had just stepped ashore when they encountered the wrong party. They were both a little worried, thinking their affair had been exposed so quickly. They soon discovered that Poseidon hadn't noticed them at all. His gaze was drawn to a mare with two prominent features below, a large hindquarters, yet appearing majestic and elegant. This mare seemed to be avoiding Poseidon, constantly galloping forward. Poseidon, however, acted as if he had found a treasure, chasing relentlessly behind her. Why is he so keen on a mare? Seeing this, Amphitrite was very surprised. Her husband, Poseidon, ever since submitting to Zeus, had changed his former ways, constantly learning from Zeus and seeking out beautiful goddesses or women to sire offspring. She had never heard that Poseidon's preferences had extended to mares. But looking at Poseidon's fervent and infatuated eyes, his purpose in chasing that mare was definitely for that matter. Let's go, let's follow and see, and do some good deeds. Polos was familiar with various rumors in Greek mythology, whether true or false, they were all in his mind. This scene suddenly reminded him of a mythological legend, and he couldn't help but chuckle, deciding to take Amphitrite to cause some mischief and do some good. Okay. As Polos's first subordinate god, and future angel, Amphitrite naturally obeyed Polos's command and flew with him towards the god and the mare. When they arrived, they they found that the mare had already rushed into a herd of horses, trying to escape Poseidon's entanglement. However, Poseidon had already seen the mare's location. He laughed excitedly, then transformed into a stallion and also rushed into the herd. Since he couldn't do anything in his divine form, Poseidon didn't mind turning into a horse to do something he had long dreamed of. Transforming into an animal was an almost innate ability for gods, any deity could do it. When such a transformation occurred, the gods' perception of the outside world would become much duller than usual. This dullness did not affect the gods' essence, they could revert to their divine form at any time. Interesting, Amphitrite. Wait until I leave before you appear. Seeing Poseidon, king of the seas, actions, Polos immediately conceived an idea. Using the great teleportation art from the 10 arts of destiny, he instantly appeared among the herd of horses, right next to the stallion Poseidon had transformed into and the mare. Then, he immediately used the great light art. A vast holy light, like a white sun, rose among the herd. The stallion Poseidon had transformed into had quietly approached the mare, ready to mount her. But at that moment, an incredibly dazzling light appeared where the herd was, almost eclipsing the sun's rays, making the horse Poseidon had transformed into feel intensely blinded. Furious, he was about to reveal his divine form to see who dared to disturb him. However, this brilliant white light vanished after only an instant. Seeing the rump he had long dreamed of, even if it was a horse's rump, right before him, Poseidon immediately pushed all other trivial matters aside. Nothing was more important than tasting the goddess he desired. Thus, Poseidon mounted her, thrusting in directly. The mare whimpered and trembled, and he trembled too, but from excitement. What a pity. My great transformation art can't last too long yet. Otherwise, I could have watched Poseidon up close from nearby. Far from the herd, Polos, riding the mare Poseidon had been pursuing, glanced back. Of the 10 arts of destiny, he had only mastered the great annihilation art, the great transformation art, the great blessing art, the great teleportation art, and the great light art so far. Just now, he had used the great teleportation art to enter the herd, immediately followed by the great light art to temporarily disrupt Poseidon's perception, then used the great transformation art to change a nearby horse into the likeness of the one he now rode. He then rode this horse and used the great teleportation art to leave. All these actions were executed with fluid swiftness. Poseidon must have noticed something was off, but consumed by lust, he didn't pay much attention, only wanting to fulfill his desires quickly. Even knowing another god was interfering, he thought he'd have a few thrusts first. If not for that, Polos would never have succeeded and would have had to let Amphitrite make her entrance. Fortunately, everything went as Polos had planned. As he was about to disappear, he gave a slight nod to Amphitrite. After a radiant smile, Amphitrite looked toward the stallion Poseidon had transformed into, her expression instantly turning icy. Poseidon, what are you doing? Do you intend to mate with a horse and make us both the laughingstock of the gods? The voice was so familiar that the stallion Poseidon had become instinctively turned his head, just in time to see his beautiful wife, Amphitrite, queen of the sea. Nay. Poseidon let out a horse's whinny, only then remembering he was currently a horse. Since Amphitrite had appeared, he knew the pleasurable activity couldn't continue, so he reluctantly reverted to his divine form. He immediately resumed his godly appearance and said nonchalantly, "It's nothing. Just playing a little game with Demeter here." Poseidon and Amphitrite had long been estranged in spirit. He was even bolder than Zeus and didn't care if Amphitrite discovered what he was doing. After all, even though Zeus was lustful and loved many, his greatest love was always Hera. Poseidon was different. His purpose in marrying Amphitrite had never been pure from the start. Demeter. Amphitrite pointed in surprise at the mare Poseidon had just violated. You're saying that's Demeter? Of course. You don't think I, the mighty king of the seas, would fancy an ordinary horse, do you? Poseidon reached out and patted the horse's rump, saying, Demeter, don't be shy. Reveal your divine form. As he patted, Poseidon felt something was off. The horse seemed much thinner than before. His expression changed drastically as he realized this mare was not the one Demeter had transformed into. Immediately, he thought of the fleeting white light he hadn't paid much attention to earlier and roared at the sky, Who are you? Don't let me find you, or I'll sink your corpse to the deepest depths of the endless ocean. As Poseidon raged, a storm churned over the nearby sea, surging toward the coastline. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, and in an instant, a torrential downpour began. He looked at Amphitrite, his eyes filled with anger and suspicion. My queen of the sea, that earlier incident wasn't arranged by you, was it? Poseidon strongly suspected this was the work of his long discontented wife conspiring with other gods. This entire region seemed to sense the wrath of Poseidon, king of the seas. Many gods secretly glanced this way, but upon seeing the king and queen of the seas seemingly arguing, they quickly averted their eyes, not daring to look further. Facing Poseidon's accusation, Amphitrite responded coldly, if I had arranged it, there wouldn't be just the two of us here. I would have gathered all the sea gods and the gods of Olympus to watch together. HMPH. Poseidon snorted coldly. He could no longer trace the whereabouts of the god who had used that strange light, and his suspicion of Amphitrite was baseless. The humiliated king of the seas shot a glance at Amphitrite and then strode away. Amphitrite remained unperturbed. She looked at the mare Poseidon had favored and actually led it away with her. She had already discovered that within this mare, a child of Poseidon was gestating. Thus, Amphitrite entrusted the mare to her attendants for careful care, thinking it might prove useful later. As for herself, she returned to her temple to study how to perform the ritual to digest the extraordinary characteristics within her and advance to Sequence 2, Sequence 1, and even Sequence True God on the Tyrant pathway. Polos galloped across the land on horseback, heading toward areas densely populated by humans. The horse beneath him remained motionless, but Polos knew her identity, Demeter, goddess of the harvest. In a certain Greek myth, this event was recorded. After Demeter, goddess of the harvest's daughter was taken by Hades, king of the underworld, the goddess was harassed by Poseidon, king of the seas during her search for her daughter. To escape Poseidon, she transformed into a mare and hid among a herd. However, Poseidon had already recognized her and subsequently transformed into a stallion, mating with the mare she had become. They even gave birth to a divine horse named Orion as a result. Truth be told, the three sisters, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, were all goddesses who greatly appealed to Polos. Hera had the blessing, enhancement, of being queen of the gods. Hestia had the blessing of being one of the three virgin goddesses. Demeter was neither queen of the gods nor a virgin goddess, but she was passionately loved by the three brothers of Zeus. Polos was quite curious about what she actually looked like. But this goddess, having escaped Poseidon, still hadn't communicated with Polos or intended to revert to her true form. She remained a horse, being ridden by him. Since she didn't mind, Polos naturally minded even less and rode on contentedly. The mare was extremely fast. In no time, Polos arrived at the place with the largest gathering of silver humans. He came to the church, saw the many worshippers inside, and also saw the saintess, Hestia tending to the elderly silver humans. So that's how it is. Polos's current power was still insufficient to hear the prayers of mortals. To achieve that, he either needed to be near the church, or his faith divine deer needed to reach the stage of understanding, or he needed to become the dreamer in the mystery system to achieve omniscience in the realm of the mind, where all words spoken are known. Now, though Polos was outside the church, he understood what had transpired in the mortal world. These silver humans had all aged. As they suffered from illness and infirmity, their dispositions finally matured, no longer like mischievous children. Faced with the threat of death, they had finally learned fear. Unlike later humans, Zeus had not granted them the ability to reproduce when he created them. Like the golden humans, they had only one generation. Yet they were inferior to the golden humans, they had lifespans, would age, and would die. Now was the time when the god of death reaped the souls of the silver humans, a process nearly irreversible. In this era, there was no concept of human souls going to the underworld after death. These silver humans had once pleaded with Zeus to let their souls remain on earth to wander after death. However, Zeus, king of the gods, refused them, declaring that their souls would enter the realm of night. Night, the abyss, and the land of eternal silence were all domains of the original ruling gods. The underworld of Hades, king of the underworld, lay between these three realms. It was a realm established there by the first king of the gods after achieving victory in the primordial war. Whether it was Hades's underworld or the domains of the three ruling gods, in the minds of mortals, they were associated with darkness, fear, cold, pain, and more. No human wished to enter them. As souls were gradually being led away, the remaining silver humans had no choice but to place all their hopes upon the Creator. O great Lord, please grant us hope. O Lord, you are the only God we believe in. We have believed in you in the past, believe in you now, and will believe in you forever. May you have mercy on us. Prayers and pleas, one after another, rose and fell within Polos's church. Hestia, Theosainces, was utterly powerless in the face of these prayers and pleas. She could not interfere with Zeus's decisions, let alone oppose the powerful Lady of Night. She could only silently tend to the ailing elders within the church, extending their lives. Fortunately, in the eyes of the silver humans, she was merely Theosainces, just the messenger of the Creator. They did not know she was a goddess and did not make their pleas to her. Soon, she noticed Polos arriving on horseback. She did not recognize the identity of the mare but felt a twinge of worry for Polos. Hestia, being one of the 12 Olympian gods of Olympus, understood clearly that behind the silver humans entering the kingdom of night was a transaction between Zeus and Nyx, Lady of Night. Zeus used this generation of humans as a bargaining chip to secure the support of Lady of Night, gaining the recognition of the gods of the kingdom of night for his identity as the king of gods. Zeus made a similar deal with Tartarus, the master of the abyss. However, what Zeus promised to Tartarus was the next generation of humans. The silver humans would be completely extinct within a few decades at most. After their extinction, Zeus would create a new generation of humans, a generation fond of killing and destruction. They would become the foundation of the Tartarus abyss. Hestia relayed this information to Polos, making him aware of the stakes involved, hoping he would not act recklessly. Zeus has his path as the king of gods, and I must walk my own path as God. I cannot halt my steps out of fear of difficulty. After speaking, he glanced at the church ahead. Vast, holy light had already begun to diffuse within it. Not just in one place, but a faint holy light appeared in all churches across the human world. What are you planning to do? Aren't you afraid of the danger? Hestia did not understand what Polos intended. This holy light of his had once illuminated heaven and earth, becoming known to almost all the gods in the world. Now, with Zeus actively searching for him, displaying this holy light so brazenly was practically inviting the gods to come and cause trouble for him. Those with firm faith shall have glory. If one fears danger, where is the glory? Polos asked himself, then continued, it is time to begin preaching. Preaching. Hestia did not grasp his meaning. Polos offered no explanation. This human form of his walked directly into the church. He had a feeling that after this, his faith-God path would be able to break through once more, reaching the third step, the foundation of glory. Reaching this foundation also meant he would ascend from the material realm to the formation realm, possessing a state comparable to that of the chief gods of this world. As he entered and stood high beneath the dome, the sacred light completely filled the church, as if piercing through the darkness shrouding the human world and sweeping away the confusion in people's hearts. Upon seeing him, the silver humans exclaimed in surprise, "O great Creator, you have come. Lord, we have waited long for you. Please help us escape the fate of heading into darkness." With compassionate eyes, Polos looked at them and spoke softly. "Those who believe in me shall attain eternal life." These words not only resounded within this church but were heard and seen. The image of Polos standing high beneath the dome, in every church across the human world where humans were present. Lord, do we not believe in you enough? Indeed, Lord, you are the only God we believe in. Please grant us eternal life. Hearing Polos utter the words, "Those who believe in me shall attain eternal life," these silver humans became even more agitated. Their voices, amplified by Polos's divine power of faith, spread to all churches across the human world, like a live broadcast, filling the people in other churches with a mix of shock and joy. Lost lambs, I shall make a covenant with you. Those in the human world with firm faith shall enter heaven and attain eternal life after death. Those who, even in darkness, can still gaze towards the light shall enter heaven and attain eternal life. Those who preach for me, spreading my words to the world, shall enter heaven and attain eternal life after death. The gates of heaven, which were, are, and ever shall be, are always open to you. I shall await your arrival within heaven. After Polos finished speaking, the world he had once created appeared above this church, its gates wide open. Sacred light emanated from this gate, illuminating everyone present. Then, they witnessed with their own eyes as Polos flew into the gate, entering that mysterious, unknowable, yet utterly beautiful world. Heaven. That was the name of this world. After Polos entered, Several other individuals within the church had their souls emerge from their bodies and followed, entering through the same gate. These individuals were all people whose lives had once been saved by Hestia using holy water. Their faith in the Creator had always been unshakably firm. Now, with the gates of heaven wide open and Polos's guidance bestowed upon them, they naturally followed the guidance of their faith and went to Polos's heaven. Can one truly enter heaven? If everyone considered Polos's own entry perfectly normal, the entry of these subsequent individuals truly moved them. They began to believe that heaven truly existed. The reason they could not enter was entirely due to their insufficiently firm faith. If one gazes towards the light while in darkness, can one enter heaven? If one preaches for the Lord, spreading his words, can one enter heaven? These people immediately thought that for those like them, whose faith was not firm, there were two other ways to enter heaven. Finally, a glimmer of hope emerged in their hearts, preventing despair from completely engulfing them. The holy light appearing everywhere in the human world was immediately noticed by Helios, god of the sun, as he patrolled the sky. He naturally recalled the even more wondrous, all-pervading divine light from about a century ago, which was almost identical to the current holy light. If he remembered correctly, behind that holy light was Polos, son of Métis, and his special divine artifact. According to Zeus and Hera, if one could obtain the artifact in Polos's possession and bring him before Hera, not only could one become one of the 12 supreme Olympian gods of Olympus, but one could also become the husband of Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Thinking of this, Helios, god of the sun, felt a surge of excitement. Unfortunately, by the time he looked over, Polos had already entered the world he had created. He saw nothing. All he saw was two goddesses standing where the holy light was most concentrated, Hestia and Demeter, the elder sisters of the king of gods. It seems they arrived before me and also failed to find Polos. Helios assumed that Hestia was helping her sister Demeter secure the last position among the supreme Olympian gods of Olympus. Disappointed, he could only go and report this matter to Zeus. Stop crying. What good is crying? Can it bring Persephone back? Watching her grieving sister, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, felt a headache coming on. But Hades, within the underworld, has the power of an entire world bolstering him. Even if we join forces, we are no match for him. Demeter continued to weep bitterly, her heart filled with despair, almost like the silver humans earlier. Hestia fell silent. What Demeter said was indeed the truth. Over the ocean, Hestia was confident she would not lose to Hades, upon the earth, she could even surpass him. But the underworld was a realm created by Uranus, the first king of gods. Hades had obtained the authority of that realm, and she was powerless against it. Regardless, let's go talk to him first. The affairs of the three brothers of Zeus were troublesome enough. Now, with the mother and daughter, Demeter and Persephone, involved, even she did not know how to handle it. After some thought, she decided she must first go to the underworld to find Hades and persuade him to release Persephone. At the very least, she could not let Persephone be trapped forever in the underworld like him. Then when shall we depart? Hearing Demeter's question, Hestia glanced around, showing slight concern. Let's wait a moment. I want to make sure Polos is safe before we go. So he is Polos. Demeter finally learned that the god who had rescued her from Poseidon's clutches and ridden her all the way was none other than the famous son of Métis. During this time, she had heard his name mentioned frequently among the gods. Correct, he is Polos. A cold, stern voice came from the sky. It was none other than their brother, Zeus, the king of gods. Hestia, Demeter, you came early. Do you know where that boy went? After being notified by Helios, the sun god, Zeus hurried over and happened to hear this conversation between Hestia and Demeter. However, neither Hestia nor Demeter paid him any attention. In their hearts, they were both filled with resentment towards Zeus. Seeing this, Zeus gave an awkward smile and did not press them further. He knew very well in his heart that the reason for their resentment was the matter concerning Persephone. But Zeus had discussed with Hera, the things they were doing were bound to displease Hades. Using Persephone to placate Hades was well worth it. Compared to Hades, Persephone, this daughter who looked almost identical to Demeter, was not very important. I will personally go to the underworld later. You two come with me. The matter between Hades and Persephone indeed needs to be settled. Zeus's words finally brought a glimmer of light to Demeter's eyes. She asked excitedly, is that true? Of course it's true. Seeing Demeter so happy, Hestia secretly sighed. The joy she felt now would be matched by the disappointment she would experience later in the underworld. But before going to the underworld, there are some matters that need to be dealt with. Zeus had discovered that among humanity, many souls were heading towards a strange world. It seemed like a realm opened by a sovereign, yet it lacked the terrifying power of a sovereign's domain. It was like a completely material realm, but the passageway to that world was extremely peculiar. Humans could grasp it, yet he, the God King, could not. Is this the power of that divine artifact? He assumed this must be the world opened by that divine artifact which had caused the world's upheaval, as the two powers were extremely similar. Although I don't know what use you have for these humans, now that I know, I won't give you a single one more. Zeus spoke coldly and suddenly threw the lightning, divine artifact in his hand towards the sky. Countless bolts of lightning simultaneously fell from the sky, striking all the churches in the mortal world. Boom. Rumble. Those churches were destroyed in an instant. Even the humans inside the churches had no time to react, they all perished under the lightning. Zeus, what are you doing? Hestia was shocked and furious, looking at her God King brother. God King Zeus said indifferently, these humans were created by me. I promised to deliver their souls to the Lady of Night. Naturally, I should keep my promise. So, you just directly killed them all. Hestia's eyes were filled with almost nothing but disappointment in Zeus. They are just some humans. If you like them, after the next batch, I'll create another batch for you. Zeus paid no mind to Hestia's thoughts. After completely annihilating the humans, he looked at Demeter. Let's go, I'll take you to the underworld. Demeter was overjoyed, while Hestia's expression was icy as she followed behind Zeus, passing through the eternal silence of Erebus, the primal sovereign, to reach Hades' territory. But after entering, he did not go to find Hades first. Instead, he went to the realm of the Lady of Night to discuss matters. Then, he detoured to the abyss to meet the three Hecatoncheires guarding it. These three giants, along with their brothers the Cyclops, were Zeus's loyal allies. I wonder how many holy spirits will emerge from this generation of silver humans. The souls that followed Polos into the world he had opened were called holy spirits by Polos. If they were humans of the future, with complex and mixed thoughts, becoming a holy spirit would be very difficult. But the humans of this era, with childlike hearts for a long time, once they began to believe, were bound to be incredibly steadfast, making them more suited to the faith God path. After the first Holy Spirit entered, the second, the third, soon, hundreds and thousands of Holy Spirits on the earth entered the material realm opened by Polos. This world had sky and earth, land and sea, sun, moon, and stars, changing seasons, animals and plants, everything except humans. After these Holy Spirits entered, the world finally had humans. As they entered one after another, Polos's divine nature also felt a stirring. Just as he had anticipated, the faith God path would progress once again because of this. It was as if a faint barrier appeared before Polos. He gave it a gentle push, and the barrier shattered. Boom. Polos entered a brand new world, no longer in the previous material realm. This world was located above the material realm. It had shed the most fundamental matter and began to possess transcendent spirituality. The formation realm, this was the description of this realm by the faith God path. It was also at this stage that the faith God path was completely established and took shape. Within the material realm, there were the two foundations of kingdom and foundation. Upon reaching the formation realm, there existed the three foundations of glory, victory, and beauty. At this point, Polos had reached the step of glory, beginning to comprehend the meaning represented by this foundation. Glory represented the dignity, contraction, and radiance of a cultivator on the faith God path. At this step, Polos needed to uphold these qualities to perfect the divine path in the formation realm. Dignity must not be lost. The spread of faith can be temporarily contracted, but ultimately one's own radiance must be revealed. Soon, Polos understood the meaning and became thoughtful. Simultaneously, the mystery pathway, corresponding to the glory foundation, also became known to Polos. Well then, it's not good for all the heavens angels to be goddesses. There should be a few male gods. This pathway corresponded to the sun. In all of Greek mythology, the deities who could align with the sun were none other than two. One was the current sun god, Helios, the other was Apollo, the god of light, son of Zeus. No, He shouldn't be the son of Zeus. He should be my son. I am his only father. Since Apollo was chosen as the wielder of the glory foundation, the choices for the subsequent victory and beauty goddesses were also obvious. Fortunately, Polos had already made contact with Apollo and the two subsequent goddesses. They would be willing to stand with him. What's going on? It's been so long, and not a single new Holy Spirit has appeared. Sensing the material realm from within the formation realm, Polos found that aside from those 1,000+ Holy Spirits, no new ones had entered. He couldn't help but find it strange. Thus, he exited the world he had created. What met his eyes was a scene of devastation, with charred corpses everywhere. Zeus, haha, what a fine god King Zeus. Emerging from the world he had created and seeing the scene before him, Polos immediately realized that all the silver humans had been annihilated by Zeus. Such a god king, if not overthrown, would defy all reason. Polos gave a cold laugh, suddenly feeling that his own growth speed was still too slow. He needed to hurry to the sea to help Amphitrite, the Sea Queen, become the sequence tyrant sooner. That way, he would naturally possess the status and power of a quasi-old one, unafraid of the so-called god kings and sovereigns of this world. At the same time, he needed to quickly subdue Hestia and bring Apollo, Artemis, and Athena under his command. He realized that while he was growing, Zeus, this god king, was also continuously growing. After delivering all the silver humans to Nyx, the Lady of Night, he would likely be able to use the power of night to suppress Hades, the king of the underworld, and become the truly supreme god king. But with your current strength, wanting to overthrow Zeus will be extremely difficult. Suddenly, Polos heard a sigh. He did not see the owner of the voice, but he sensed a compassionate divine power that seemed to bear and nurture all things, as if it were the most primordial force of this world, against which he had no power to resist. Earth Mother Gaia. Polos whispered softly, guessing the identity of the speaker. It is I, Polos, my child. Earth Mother Gaia did not appear, but she acknowledged her identity, causing Polos to frown involuntarily. Earth Mother Gaia, eldest daughter of Chaos, the creator god, the primordial earth, and the nurturer of the world. Polos still could not determine in what form the ultra-primordial gods of this world existed. If they existed in the form of deities, then Earth Mother Gaia was also one of the ultra-primordial gods, representing the beginning of all things. In any case, no matter her identity, Earth Mother Gaia at this moment was not someone Polos, a newly ascended main god, could provoke. In fact, Polos's main god realm could only be described as quasi-main god. The faith god path does not call this realm a main god, but rather an archangel. However, as the lord of all archangels, he could not be referred to as an archangel. Is there something you need, Earth Mother? He didn't know how much Earth Mother Gaia knew about him, so he could only see what her intentions were. If push came to shove, he would abandon this body and revive on the sea again. He planned to go to the sea anyway. Polos, my child, I heard your ambition and specifically sought you out to offer help. My ambition. Polos recalled his words and couldn't help but ask, to overthrow Zeus. If Earth Mother Gaia had come specifically to help him with this, Polos would be very welcoming. Yes, Polos, Zeus was able to overthrow Cronus by gaining the assistance of many gods and giants. Now, these gods and giants are difficult for you to win over. I will give you guidance to find allies who truly belong to you. Allies who truly belong to me. Polos became interested and asked Earth Mother Gaia, who had not yet appeared, may I ask who my allies are, and where are they? In the Uraeus Mountains, there is my child Typhon, who was imprisoned there during the era of Uranus. Go and rescue him, and he will wholeheartedly help you, just as the Hecatoncheires and Cyclops helped Zeus. He is the progenitor of all monsters. With his help, you will have the power to contend with the many gods of Olympus. The choice Earth Mother Gaia gave was unexpected by Polos, yet within reason. He did not know that Typhon had been imprisoned by Uranus, the first king of gods. However, he had heard the legend that Typhon once incited a rebellion against Zeus, even causing the Olympian gods to panic. But will he listen to me? Polos didn't mind rescuing Typhon to cause trouble for Zeus. As for whether Typhon would help him or obey him, it wasn't important, he didn't really need Typhon's help. However, Earth Mother Gaia asked for his help, and he couldn't help for free, even if she was the mother of the gods. You and Zeus are truly different. Earth Mother Gaia thought that before the Titanomachy, when Zeus heard that the Hecatoncheires could help him, he didn't make any conditions, but instead broke into Tartarus and released the 3 Hecatoncheires. But this son of Zeus, a young god who also had the destiny of a king of gods, clearly wanted to gain benefits in advance to avoid working for nothing. What do you want? Polos casually said, you are the first ruler, possessing the authority to distribute divine portfolio of the earth, and you also have many ancient artifacts. I can accept either divine portfolio or artifacts. These were the only benefits he could obtain from Earth Mother Gaia. Earth Mother Gaia replied, I do not wish to break with Zeus now, so I can only help you in secret. I cannot bestow upon you divine portfolio or artifacts. Polos did not expect that Earth Mother Gaia would want him to do her bidding without giving anything in return. So, Polos fell silent, saying nothing. The tree of life was placed on the sea, so he was not afraid of Earth Mother Gaia harming him. Polos, my child, I promise you that if Typhon is unwilling to become your helper, I can send one of my daughters to you as a subordinate god. Earth Mother Gaia's daughters were all excellent gods. Hearing this, Polos smiled. Then, how can I rescue Typhon from the mighty Uraeus? Uraeus, the ancient mountain god, like Pontus, the ancient sea god, was a brother of Uranus, the first king of gods. Without surprise, even if he wasn't a ruler-level god now, he was almost there. Polos, with his small stature, really couldn't defeat him. Don't worry, I will hold Uraeus back. You just need to ignite the volcano imprisoning Typhon and make it erupt to release him. It sounded simple, Polos just didn't understand why Earth Mother Gaia wanted him to do it. Are there no other gods in the entire world willing to help Earth Mother Gaia with this small matter? Polos did not refuse and directly followed Earth Mother Gaia's guidance to the source of all mountain ranges in the world, the Uraeus Mountains. There was no trace of any mountain god here. As Uranus, the first king of gods' most loyal brother and subordinate, Uraeus was different from Pontus. After the Scythe usurpation, the gods of the Uraeus lineage were purged by the 12 Titans. The most ancient mountain range, the source of all hills in the world, actually only had Uraeus left as a single god. And the divine portfolio of various mountain gods had all been taken by the descendants of the 12 Titans. Polos directly arrived at the towering volcano. Feeling no divine interference, he no longer hesitated and directly used his divine power to ignite the deepest flames of the volcano. The entire world shook, like a massive earthquake sweeping across the continent. However, this was not an earthquake, but a volcanic eruption causing the earth to tremble. From the magma and flames soaring into the sky, Polos saw a gigantic 100-headed dragon, like a mountain. Its heads were like lions, leopards, oxen, or wild boars, a gathering of 100 beasts, in all their forms, with only the central head being human-shaped. Around each head, tens of thousands of venomous snakes formed its hair. These angry snake hairs, combined with its 100 giant, python-like arms, obscured the entire sky. Its lower serpentine body burst forth from the Uraeus Mountains, and wherever it passed, the earth collapsed into rift valleys, and its venomous saliva dripped, defiling the mountains. What a progenitor of all monsters! Earth Mother Gaia and Tartarus, the abyss, truly bore a good child. No wonder Uranus, the first king of gods, had to imprison him. It seems it's not just as simple as Earth Mother Gaia having an affair with Tartarus behind her husband's son's back. Typhon finally broke free and roared in the high sky. One of his heads let out a human voice, while the others howled like wolves, roared like lions, bellowed like oxen, hissed like snakes, and growled like leopards, a cacophony of sounds that shook the entire universe. Zeus, who was in the underworld and had just concluded negotiations with Hades, king of the underworld, was startled by this sound. He exclaimed in anger, "Who is it that released Typhon?" After Zeus became king of the gods, he had once visited the Uraeus Mountains, seen Typhon imprisoned in the volcano, felt his magic, and heard his voice. The king of the gods immediately realized that some god had released Typhon. But none of the gods of the underworld gave him an answer. He said to the king of the underworld, "Hades, we have agreed that Demeter or Persephone will take your place as one of the 12 Olympian gods. Persephone will spend half of the year with you in the underworld, and the other half she will return to the human world." Hades's expression was somewhat grim, but when he saw the group of gods who emerged from the kingdom of night after Zeus's queen, including the god of death, god of sleep, god of poverty, goddess of discord, goddess of deception, and so on, he could only nod silently. This time, Zeus gave the souls of the silver humans he created to Nyx, Lady of Night, to help her perfect the kingdom of night, and immediately received a reward from the night. These gods would all go to the human world and acknowledge Zeus as the king of the gods. Zeus even, generously, left the twin brothers, the god of death and god of sleep, to Hades as subordinate gods of the king of the underworld. Don't worry, after the next batch of human souls is sent to Tartarus, the people created next will come to the underworld after death, strengthening your authority. Zeus wasn't just oppressive, he also offered help to the underworld, which Hades couldn't refuse. The two brother kings, one smug and satisfied, the other reluctantly accepting. But their two elder sisters were both unhappy. Hestia still recalled Zeus casually destroying all the silver humans, which filled her with disappointment and aversion. Demeter, on the other hand, was saddened by the thought of her daughter having to spend half the year in the cold underworld. As for becoming one of the 12 Olympian gods, that was not what the mother and daughter wanted, they only wished to be happy together always. Zeus didn't care about their thoughts, believing he had been very good to his siblings. He did not linger in the underworld and headed towards the human world. Hestia, Demeter, and Persephone also departed together, followed by many children of the night. Among them, a young girl named Hecate was the youngest daughter of Nyx, Lady of Night. She was not given any divine portfolio, but her divine envoy, Asteria, goddess of shooting stars, personally guarded her. Hestia even heard that Hecate sometimes called the goddess of shooting stars, mother, and she did not object. It was obvious that this was with the permission of Nyx, Lady of Night. This girl might be extraordinary. Hestia inexplicably had this feeling in her heart. In the human world, as Polos had expected, Typhon, the hundred-headed dragon he had rescued, refused to help him become king of the gods. This progenitor of all monsters laughed maniacally. The throne of the king of the gods should belong to the son of Gaia and Tartarus, the god with the most noble bloodline in the entire world, not a junior like you. However, you have helped me. After I become the god king, I will make you the new king of the seas, to control all seas. Polos smiled faintly, feeling that this demon was quite interesting. He had just been released and was already thinking about how to divide territories for himself. He didn't say much and left the Uraeus Mountains directly, heading for the sea. In the coming period, with the appearance of the demon Typhon, there would likely be much excitement in the world. He would take advantage of the conflict between the Olympian gods and the demon Typhon to have Amphitrite, queen of the sea, complete a few rituals. After Polos left, an ancient voice echoed in the Uraeus Mountains. Mother, is this the fourth generation god king you have chosen? Gaia's voice then came. Do you think I would still be willing for Uranus's descendants to become the god king of heaven and earth? I helped Uranus achieve victory in the War of Obscurity, making him the god king, but he was so cruel as to force the Hecatoncheires back into my birth canal, causing me immense suffering. I helped Cronus successfully seize the throne with the scythe and become the god king, but he used his authority as god king to continuously suppress the evolution of the earth, preventing my divine path from progressing for many years. I secretly supported Zeus to achieve victory in the Titanomachy and become the god king, but he secretly helped Nyx and Tartarus, giving them the opportunity to interfere with the human world. Earth Mother Gaia's voice changed from benevolent to cold. In the future world, even if there is no god king, Uranus's descendants must not become the new king. This newly born deity has a mist behind him that I cannot see through. I need him to contend with Zeus, to ignite a war among Cronus's descendants. There are already enough deities in heaven and earth. The next struggle for the god king position must not be like the previous ones, where the losers were either exiled or imprisoned, with almost no bloodshed. Let Typhon lead the way. I will usher in a bloody era for the struggle between these father and son figures. After Earth Mother Gaia finished her long speech, ancient mountain god Urea only let out a long sigh. Ever since his respected elder brother abandoned the god king position and left the outer realms, as the lord of mountains most closely tied to the earth, he no longer had the right to resist the Earth Mother. Uraeus could only watch with cold eyes what this bloody era would be like. The hundred-headed dragon Typhon, after being born, did not rush to attack Olympus but hid somewhere to recover his state. After Zeus emerged from the underworld, he immediately found the three fates and asked them who had released Typhon. Polos. This familiar name made Zeus grit his teeth. He was furious, standing amidst the lightning of Olympus, his gaze seemingly sweeping over all corners of the world, yet he could not find Polos's whereabouts. Can you see where he appeared through destiny? Zeus, powerless, could only continue to seek help from the three fates. However, the goddesses of destiny disappointed Zeus, shaking their heads simultaneously. We can observe destiny and correct its general direction, but we cannot directly interfere with destiny. Otherwise, unexpected worst results will occur. It's just killing a rebellious god who should have died. What bad result could there be? Zeus was displeased but could do nothing about the three fates. After Demeter and her daughter returned to the human world, all 12 main gods of the Temple of Olympus were seated, and Zeus's authority was further strengthened. But for a god king, this was still far from enough. Zeus clearly understood that his current strength was still inferior to that of Cronus in the past. He still couldn't understand why Cronus, with his immense power, who could have turned the tide by himself, ultimately abandoned the god-king position. After he became god-king, he not only feared that the throne would be taken by the prophesied Polos but also feared Cronus's comeback to reclaim the god-king position. Therefore, he continuously expanded his authority. As long as it could enhance his authority, Zeus didn't mind cooperating with any entity. Nyx was like this, and Tartarus, the abyss, was also like this. After discussing the Typhon problem with the gods, Zeus created a new generation of humans in the mortal realm. This generation of humans was called the Bronze Humans. Unlike the benevolence of the Golden Humans and the stubbornness of the Silver Humans, the Bronze Humans seemed to be born with Zeus's wrath. They loved to fight from birth. Moreover, this generation of humans had been granted the right to reproduce by Zeus, able to bear offspring. They quickly formed tribes, and began to kill each other, with humans constantly dying in battle. Most of the main gods of Olympus ignored their battles and slaughter, as if watching with cold eyes as one soul after another was sent into the Tartarus, the abyss. They all knew that the destiny for which this generation of humans was created was to help Tartarus perfect the abyss. This was an agreement between God King Zeus and the abyss. The abyss would be perfected, and the God King's authority would thus extend to the abyss. However, there were still two deities who looked at the human world's various happenings with sadness. One of them was Prometheus, who had helped Zeus achieve victory in the Titanomachy. To thank him, Zeus promised him that he could live on Mount Olympus and acquire the authority he desired. As if the time had not yet come, Zeus had been god-king for over 100 years, yet Prometheus, known as the Wise One, had not yet sought Zeus to obtain the authority he needed. He traveled throughout the human world, seeing unprecedented bloodshed and slaughter, constantly muttering to himself. It shouldn't be like this. Such humans are not complete humans. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, saw Prometheus's sadness and heard his soliloquy. She did not disturb Prometheus but walked in another direction, traversing the human world. Finally, she made her ultimate decision. This eldest sister of the God King, one of the 12 principal deities of Mount Olympus, traveled through human hearts to an island in the ocean. This island was precisely where she and Polos had once cohabited. Hestia had originally just tried it casually, she hadn't expected Polos to actually be there. But here, it was not only Polos, there was also a goddess who, upon her arrival, quickly put on her clothes. Her smooth skin, cold and beautiful face, and the crown on her head were all so striking. It was none other than Amphitrite, queen of the sea, the wife of her brother, Poseidon, king of the seas. You all. Hestia, witnessing this scene, was at a loss for words. When Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, was born, she heard Polos's words and it seemed he had taken an interest in Amphitrite. However, in her opinion, this was Polos's wild fantasy. How could a dignified sea queen, the most noble goddess of the sea, be taken advantage of by him? Unexpectedly, she witnessed it firsthand this time. Polos had not only laid hands on her but had also left many marks on Amphitrite, queen of the sea, including whip marks and palm prints. She even vaguely saw Polos's name carved on Amphitrite's private parts. Playing so outrageously. Hestia was greatly shaken but pretended to be indifferent and said nothing. I told you long ago to do this in your temple, but you insisted on coming here. Polos was not as anxious as Amphitrite, queen of the sea, but calmly and leisurely put on his clothes. Amphitrite had already tidied her appearance, looking at Hestia, her cold and dignified demeanor restored. However, a hint of allure flashed in her eyes when she looked at Polos, which Hestia caught. Truly worthy of being Zeus's son. Hestia sighed. In terms of seducing goddesses, Polos had truly inherited the essence, even surpassing Zeus by a few points. Zeus probably dreamt of enjoying the wife of his own brother, Poseidon, king of the seas. Hestia, have you come to seek me because you have doubts in your heart? Polos seemed to know why Hestia had come, looking at the goddess of the hearth with a knowing smile, as if he held all wisdom. As a goddess who controlled faith and had a deep understanding of the faith god path, it would be strange if she had no doubts in the current human situation. Without surprise, her second subordinate god, her second angel, would appear today. Yes, Polos, creator, I have questions and wish for you to enlighten me. Speak your doubts, Hestia. The incident that had just been witnessed seemed as if it had never happened. I want to know, in the faith god path, what will happen to those humans without faith? Choosing between Zeus and Polos, after Zeus annihilated the silver humans and created the bronze humans destined for Tartarus, Hestia had already made her decision in her heart. This question now was arguably her final doubt before making her decision. Those who believe in me shall have eternal life. This is my covenant with my followers. Upon hearing Hestia's question, Polos did not hesitate. This answer had long been settled in his mind. But those who do not believe in me shall also have their own paths. We must not interfere. Preach in the mortal world, guide all beings onto the path of faith, so they may eventually enter heaven and gain eternal life. But coercion must not be used. Faith obtained through force is not true faith. Those who harm the faithful must be punished, but others must not be harmed. Regarding how to preach in the future mortal world, Polos naturally had his own ideas. A proselytizing method like Yahweh's, one of relentless slaughter, was indeed easy, but how much true faith could be gained that way? After embarking on this path, Polos realized that Yahweh had either strayed onto a wrong path or could no longer interfere with the spread of faith in the mortal world. He could not do the same. From the very beginning, he needed to prepare complete commandments, rituals, sermons, punishments, and so on. Of course, this was not something he, as a single god, could accomplish alone. It would require the collective efforts of many future angels to complete together. Thus, I understand. Hestia directly knelt on one knee and swallowed a verdant green leaf. This familiar action made Amphitrite, queen of the sea, light up with recognition. I, Hestia, in the name of foundation, revere the tree of life as the supreme tree, and the master of the tree of life as the supreme sovereign, the eternal creator. You are the one, and also the all, the primordial beginning, and the end of everything. No matter what lies ahead, faith shall never perish. Apart from the name and the foundation, the prayer was exactly the same. After Hestia finished this prayer, Polos gained another archangel of the main god level, and the tree of life gained the foundation of foundation. Polos said nothing more, casually summoning the staff of life to his hand. Then, he gently stroked Hestia's head and said warmly, "Do not resist, Hestia. You shall receive my blessing and embark upon a great path." Hestia offered no resistance. Under the control of Polos's divine power, she entered the tree of life, into that origin point belonging to foundation. Foundation, the basis of matter, the basis of faith. When Polos learned that Hestia had obtained the power of faith without any guidance, he intended for her to become the wielder of this foundation. Now, having finally achieved his wish, he could not help but let a smile show on his face. I just wonder if this mystery system will be a good match for Hestia. Within the foundation origin point, the tree of life bestowed the extraordinary characteristics and promotion methods of the dreamer pathway. If the tyrant represents the omnipotent and omniscient aspect of God in the material realm, then the dreamer represents God's omnipotent and omniscient power in the realm of the mind. Finally, a sequence true God will appear. Witnessing this scene, Amphitrite, queen of the sea beside him, was even more excited than Polos. Amidst the slaughter of the bronze humans, Amphitrite, queen of the sea, after several years of preparation, had successively completed the rituals for sequence 2 inches calamity, and sequence 1 inch god of thunder, in the tyrant sequence of the mystery system. At this moment, she was in a state of confusion, unsure how to complete the sequence 0 ritual. First, she needed hundreds of thousands of followers who obeyed and believed out of fear. Second, she needed to challenge a true god, that is, a god of another sequence, alone and survive. Finally, she needed to complete the ascension within that atmosphere of fear and obedience. Over these past few years, Amphitrite had grown increasingly severe, to the point where even her younger siblings were extremely afraid of her. Under her command now, there were already hundreds of thousands of followers who feared her, including sea monsters and bronze humans. However, challenging a sequence alone was somewhat difficult for her. Apart from herself, she simply did not know who else in this world had embarked upon the divine path of this system. The reason she came to find Polos this time was to seek guidance on this very issue. But Polos only told her that what should appear would eventually appear, and then tried to pull her into indulging in pleasure. Polos even thought it wasn't exciting enough on this island and wanted to go to her Sea Queen's temple. Amphitrite employed various methods to dissuade Polos from this idea. She was truly worried about being caught by her son, Triton, again. Ever since Triton caught them last time, her son had been particularly vigilant about this matter, checking on her from time to time. Amphitrite knew that what Triton wanted to see was whether there were any other male gods hidden in her temple. After learning that Amphitrite did not care about the position of Sea Queen, the son of the Sea King and Sea Queen finally began to panic somewhat. He was very worried. If his mother was no longer the Sea Queen, could he maintain his current status across the seas? Poseidon already had many children. If the Sea Queen became another goddess, her children would surely think of replacing him. Triton absolutely would not allow this to happen. Hestia was different from Amphitrite, queen of the sea. She was one of the current foundational main gods of the Olympian pantheon and had always been under the observation of the three fates. When Hestia entered the Tree of Life, the three goddesses of destiny, who were weaving the threads of fate, let out sighs of helplessness. Here we go again. This is already the third time. They discovered that the fate of Hestia, goddess of the hearth, had suddenly developed a strange fork. On the river of fate, it seemed as if two Hestias existed simultaneously. One remained one of the most important main gods of Olympus, while the other appeared on that illusory divine mountain that had manifested once before. Let's go inform Zeus. Since they had discovered it, they certainly could not hide it. They needed to let the divine King Zeus know. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Upon hearing the account from the three fates, Zeus's face was full of disbelief. Hestia would never betray Olympus. She values family the most. I know this well. Her status is so high, her power so great. I truly cannot think of any reason for her to turn her back on Mount Olympus, her home. Divine King, fate's indication is thus. You need to prepare early. However, Hestia's issue is not too severe. Her position in Olympus was never meant to be permanent. In the future, she will cede this position to one of your sons. Zeus fell silent for a moment before saying indifferently, even so, that is no excuse for her to forsake Olympus. Suddenly, Zeus thought of something and asked the three fates, do you think this so-called illusory divine mountain has any connection with Polos, son of Métis? It cannot be confirmed, but judging from what Aphrodite said, there might indeed be a connection. The three fates could only see some aspects of fate and the inconsistencies in fate at the current time. They were not omniscient. They could only speculate on possible connections based on events that had already occurred. All signs indicated that Polos was the factor causing the changes in fate. I knew it. That scourge should not have been left alive. Hera misled me. At this moment, Zeus was filled with resentment towards his wife, Hera. In truth, he also blamed Themis, mistress of justice in his heart, but since Themis was the mother of the three fates, Zeus did not voice this. The three fates said nothing more. After informing Zeus how to handle it was his problem, they could not assist. Currently, Zeus did not have the energy to search for Polos, because on the earth, Typhon was constantly seeking opportunities to attack Mount Olympus. The humans of the Bronze Age, fond of slaughter, waged wars everywhere on the earth, producing souls that Tartarus favored. But this state of the earth also gave the hundred-headed dragon Typhon's power an unprecedented boost. Under his command were numerous monsters, demonic beasts, sea monsters, and others, who regarded him as their master, wreaking havoc in the mortal world and openly declaring their intent to seize Zeus's throne as divine king. Typhon even brazenly proclaimed that he would take Hera, queen of the gods, as his wife. This was something Zeus could not tolerate at all. If not for his fear of the Earth Mother Gaia and Tartarus, the abyss behind Typhon, he would have long led the gods to attack Typhon. Only by having Hades make another sacrifice. Zeus made up his mind and summoned Hermes, the divine messenger. Go tell Hades that I promise to grant Hecate, the youngest daughter of the Lady of Night, the authority of the Dark Moon to help him manage the underworld and command the souls of the dead. Also tell Poseidon that Hecate will become the goddess of the path and fortune. All crossroads, whether in the sky, earth, or sea, shall fall under her authority. Zeus did not understand why the Lady of Night showed such favor to her youngest daughter, making Hecate's acquisition of these authorities the condition for her willingness to help him counter the potentially intervening Earth Mother Gaia. He only vaguely sensed that Hecate, this young maiden, might become an extremely powerful goddess in the future. Also notify the many river godsons of Oceanus to temporarily use their divine power to retain the souls of humans who have died recently, preventing them from heading to the abyss. This time, if Tartarus intervenes to help Typhon, I will no longer hand over these promised human souls to him. With Nyx, a trait involving the divine portfolios Hecate would acquire was necessary. But regarding Tartarus, the abyss, Zeus's deal with him was already incomplete. If the abyss broke the agreement, then he could forget about receiving any more human souls. Go, Hermes. When you return, it will be time for us, the gods of Olympus, to face Typhon in the final battle. Hermes, the god of messengers, departed in haste. On an overseas island, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, slowly emerged from the tree of life. Within it, she had obtained the Book of Foundation, which contained methods for utilizing faith, power, and various paths for advancing on the future divine path. Angel, Archangel, Vice Ruler of Heaven, these roughly corresponded to the current deities, chief gods, ordinary sovereigns, and primal sovereigns. Obtaining the advanced method for the faith god path had already delighted Hestia. But beyond that, she had also acquired a method to achieve the status of god of fantasy. This system was incredibly unique, spanning from mortals all the way to deities. And the authority of the god of fantasy left Hestia utterly astonished. What is imagined shall be manifested, what is fantasized shall descend upon the material world, what is proclaimed of the future shall unfold and become reality. Perhaps it had not yet reached the power of a sovereign, but it already held a hint of grasping the torrent of fate. Within the tree of life, Hestia continuously comprehended the core of the mystery system, having progressed from sequence 9, spectator, to sequence 3, dreamweaver. However, to achieve the subsequent ranks of clairvoyant, author, and god of fantasy, she needed to complete corresponding rituals in the world. The promotion rituals for sequence 2 and sequence 1 posed no difficulty for this goddess of the hearth, who could already enter countless households through hearths and listen to the hearts of people by the fireside. It was only the sequence 0 rank, how to achieve it, that gave Hestia some hesitation. Upon hearing this, Polos laughed directly. Between heaven and earth right now, it is the time of the most intense struggle between Zeus and Typhon. For the outcome of this battle, what result do you desire? The promotion ritual for the god of fantasy, or the dreamer. To make the development of an era conform to one's own conception, then absorb the extraordinary characteristics at the critical juncture, within the stipulated tide of the times. I wish. Hestia hesitated slightly before continuing. Although Zeus has disappointed me, compared to the 100-headed dragon Typhon, I still hope he will win the final victory. And as for the current bronze humans, although they are fond of conflict and slaughter, I still do not wish for them to be completely eradicated like the silver humans. Hestia's vision for the future did not exceed Polos's expectations. He nodded and said, then go. My messenger, complete the sequence 1 promotion before the final great battle arrives, and go assist Zeus. The final outcome will be as you foresee. Polos, my lord, I depart. This is the last time I will help Zeus. Henceforth, I shall proceed only under your guidance. Hestia bowed respectfully to Polos and then left the island. Seeing her leave, Amphitrite, queen of the sea, said with some regret, I originally thought that after she emerged, you would pleasure her as you did back then. She remembered when she herself had emerged from the tree of life. The law of desire on this scepter was pervasive everywhere, and she had found it difficult to dispel. In the end, Polos had taken her, and for a full half-month they did not step out of the Sea Queen's temple, until they were finally discovered by her son Triton. What? Does Her Majesty the Sea Queen still wish to play with Hestia? Don't even say it, but I truly wish to see what expression this eldest sister of the God King, who has always been cold and indifferent to any male god, would wear after her clothes are shed. After Hestia departed, a touch of allure appeared on the coldly beautiful face of Amphitrite, queen of the sea. I cannot be certain she would be willing to let you see that. You know, I never force goddesses. Then what are you doing now, my lord? Polos had already pulled her into his embrace, completing the matter interrupted by Hestia, helping the Sea King fulfill his due obligations. Poseidon will surely thank you. Amphitrite, queen of the sea, let out an unusual gasp. At this moment, she was simply waiting for Hestia to achieve sequence 0, so she could then use Hestia to complete her own ritual. Having nothing else to do, she might as well stay here with Polos. Hestia left the sea and returned to the land, yet she was in no hurry to go to the Olympian pantheon. Among mortals, she found the opportunity to complete the promotion rituals for sequence 2 and sequence 1, becoming a fairy tale author. She possessed the characteristic, all that is spoken shall be known, though it was limited to beings below the rank of chief god. Chief gods, empowered by the fundamental forces of heaven and earth, could shield themselves from this characteristic of hers. This is quite good as well. It allows me to understand more clearly what my future believers are thinking. If Amphitrite, queen of the sea, merely regarded the faith god path as a tool for her own strength, then Hestia, goddess of the hearth, genuinely loved this divine path and was willing to delve deeply into it. The Book of Foundation could not satisfy her quest for understanding faith power. She could sense that this broad divine path still held much to be explored. During the process of Hestia achieving sequence 1, it was also the time when Typhon ran rampant across the mortal world without restraint. This son of Earth Mother Gaia and Tartarus, the Abyss, seemed to have grown even stronger, his body becoming even more colossal. Standing between heaven and earth, he was like a divine mountain taller and more majestic than Olympus, his head touching the stars, one hand in the far east, the other able to reach the far west. Many wings grew from his body, densely covering the sky, his tangled hair was covered with the dust of the earth. In the eyes of many cruel and combative bronze humans, he was the true god, not Zeus. These humans who followed Typhon, along with Typhon's numerous offspring, cheered together, their voices resounding throughout heaven and earth. Typhon had a wife, named Echidna. After Earth Mother Gaia united with Tartarus, the Abyss, she gave birth to Typhon, then used the remaining power of the Abyss to create Echidna. Her upper body was that of a beautiful woman, while her lower body consisted of 2 serpent tails. After uniting with Typhon, she gave birth to many powerful monsters. Among them were the 100-headed dragon Ladon, the 9-headed Hydra, the 3-headed dog Cerberus, the 2-headed dog Orthrus, the Nemean lion, the lion-goat snake Chimera, the Sphinx, and the sea monster Scylla. Now, their numerous children, along with their mother, cheered for Typhon, hoping he could truly overthrow Zeus. Fight, my brothers and sisters, my children. Zeus sat high upon the god king's throne, looking at the deities seated upon the other 11 divine seats. Hades, king of the underworld, had rarely emerged from the underworld and sat in the seat usually occupied by Demeter, intending to participate in this battle. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, whom the 3 fates had indicated might have already turned away from Olympus, had also returned. Zeus's gaze upon her was deeply meaningful, but he said nothing about it at this time. The current Olympus still needed the complete 12 chief gods. The deities, full of fierce momentum, charged towards where Typhon was. Seeing that the bronze humans were actually cheering for Typhon, Zeus immediately felt rage. He said to Poseidon, "It is time for this generation of humans to be destroyed. Unleash the flood." Poseidon did not refuse at all. Wielding his authority, he raised towering floods upon the sea, which surged towards the land. The great flood arrived. The land, which had grown somewhat arid due to Typhon's divine power, instantly turned into countless marshes. Humans panicked, abandoned warfare, and fled towards the high mountains, unwilling to die beneath the great flood. But how could their speed outrun the flood? The flood slowly rampaged, submerging plains, drowning hills, mercilessly reaping countless lives. Whether deities or the many monsters, none had time to pay attention to the humans' plight. At this moment, the decisive battle between Olympus and Typhon was underway. Only then did the deities understand Typhon's formidable power. He roared and howled fiercely, rushing back and forth between the 4 poles, spreading his serpent hair, raising his giant arms to strike the clouds. The high heavenly clouds were thrown into chaos, constellations shifted positions, many stars directly fell into the sea. The star deities were thus injured, adding further spectacle to this vast flood. The sun and moon appeared simultaneously in the sky. Typhon struck the chariot of Helios, god of the sun, his serpent hair also lashed Selene, goddess of the moon, covering her body with wounds. Like the star deities, the wind deities, also children of Eos, goddess of dawn, were defeated by Typhon and suffered serious injuries. Angered that Poseidon, king of the seas, had raised the flood, extinguishing many mountain fires that shared his origin, Typhon charged into the sea. He stirred the seawater, raising towering giant waves, then cleaved through the waves, dragging Poseidon's chariot out of the water. The myriad sea creatures were terrified, even Oceanus, lord of the ocean, gave him a wide berth. Zeus, how much longer will you watch this demon run rampant? Poseidon, king of the seas, roared towards the sky. Only then did god King Zeus, wielding the lightning artifact, appear high in the air. Under his lead, the 12 chief gods of Olympus simultaneously besieged Typhon. Of course, the deities of the next generation only held the title of chief god. They had not yet reached the realm of chief gods. Therefore, the main task of Hera, Hestia, and Aphrodite was actually to protect the 6 young deities: Athena, Artemis, Apollo, Hephaestus, Ares, and Hermes. The primary battle was between the 3 kings and Typhon. Thunderbolts rained down incessantly, storms raged wildly across the sea, a profound force representing death and termination flickered in and out of sight. The 3 sons of Cronus allowed the many deities to witness their formidable talents. Having wielded the authority of heaven and earth for barely over 200 years, Zeus already possessed the strength of an ordinary sovereign. Hades and Poseidon had similarly reached the limit of chief gods. With the authority of heaven and earth empowering them, Typhon, this arrogant ancestor of all monsters, was completely suppressed and beaten by the 3 of them. The Earth Mother Gaia, whom Zeus had feared, did not intervene, perhaps because she was restrained by the Lady of Night, or perhaps she never intended to act. Tartarus, the abyss, also did not move, watching idly as Typhon was beaten and howled by the lightning artifact. But at this moment, a goddess emerged from the sea. Beneath her feet was a giant ark, cleaving through the heavy waves, arriving at the marshlands that were once the land. The remaining humans, already in despair, saw this majestic, coldly beautiful goddess appear and beheld the giant ark. Tears streamed down their faces. The gods have not abandoned us. Finally, a god has come to save us. The ark slowly traversed the mortal world, and the remaining bronze humans, shivering on the mountain peaks, boarded it as it passed. Seeing this, Zeus snorted coldly, "Poseidon, what is your wife doing? Is she opposing Olympus?" Of course, he recognized that the goddess controlling the ark to rescue the remaining humans was none other than Poseidon's wife, Amphitrite, queen of the sea. Amphitrite, queen of the sea, watched as groups of humans boarded the colossal ark manifested by Polos' mere thought, her heart filled with mixed emotions. By coming out this time to save the remaining humans, she had openly offended both Zeus and Tartarus. One was a king of gods, the other an ancient primal sovereign. Neither she nor Polos could overcome them in their current state. Yet, she had no choice but to do this. Polos had entrusted the ark to her, leaving the decision of whether to save these humans entirely up to her. Amphitrite pondered for a long time. When the battle between the 3 brothers of Zeus and Typhon reached a critical juncture, she still steered the ark forth. This was not due to any great pity for the current bronze humans. Amphitrite was never a goddess of mercy. She simply understood that the survival of these humans was tied to whether Hestia's ritual for ascending to the sequence, god of fantasy, could be completed. Only after Hestia became a sequence true god could Amphitrite challenge her, complete her own ritual, and also become sequence 0, tyrant. Why call it tyrant? That name is so unpleasant. It should be Lord of Storms or Goddess of Storms. Thinking of how Hestia had renamed her sequence, the dreamer, too, god of fantasy, Amphitrite, queen of the sea, decided she too would change her title. She, the future sovereign of the seas, was no tyrant. But before that, she needed to take the humans on the ark to the sea. Amphitrite, you're taking these people away just like that. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? The 3 brothers of Zeus had completely suppressed Typhon, ancestor of all monsters. The ferocious beast no longer showed his previous arrogance, his body covered in wounds. Not only the divine brothers, but even several of the younger children of the king of gods had joined the fray, continuously attacking him. From the sea to the flooded land, Typhon's spilled blood was everywhere. As for his wife and children, seeing the situation turn unfavorable, they all fled and hid. In the eyes of the gods, it seemed as if Zeus was using Typhon's rampage to establish the authority of Olympus's younger deities. After all, before this, the mighty sun god and moon god had been forced to flee by Typhon, while his children could continuously inflict wounds upon him. With Typhon no longer a major threat, Zeus, king of the gods, finally had time to address Amphitrite, questioning her. Amphitrite had already brought the ark back to the sea. She replied calmly, I will sever my ties with Poseidon and return the attendants he once gave me. I will need some new attendants. What? This news was truly explosive. Not just Zeus, but almost none of the gods observing the great battle were not astonished. Discord between divine couples had occurred from the age of ignorance until now. The earliest was between Erebus, Lord of Dark Perpetuity, and Nyx, Lady of Night. This primal sibling pair, for unknown reasons, ceased all interaction around the time Uranus, the first king of gods, took control of the heavens. The later deities within the kingdom of night were all born by Nyx, Lady of Night, alone. A more recent case was between Pontus, the ancient sea god, and Thalassa, the ancient sea queen. It likely related to Pontus's relations with Earth Mother Gaia and Thalassa bearing the child of Uranus, the first king of gods. The couple lived apart in separate seas and had not met for years. But declaring before all the gods the intention to sever ties with one's husband was a first in the world. All the gods looked curiously between Poseidon, king of the seas, and Amphitrite, queen of the sea, endlessly speculating about what had happened. Could it be that Oceanus's family, with its thousands of deities, was about to break with Olympus? If that were truly the case, it would be a turmoil no less significant than that caused by Typhon. What nonsense are you spouting, Amphitrite? We do not agree. Above the sea, Oceanus, lord of the ocean, and his wife Thetis, these two Titan gods, hurried over immediately, looking angrily at Amphitrite. Exactly, Amphitrite. Apologize properly to Poseidon and continue being the sea queen. The lord of the ocean and his wife acted swiftly, simultaneously reprimanding Amphitrite. Clearly, they had been closely following this great battle. A self-mocking smile appeared on Amphitrite's face as she looked at her parents. What you need is merely a daughter who is the sea queen. Whether it's me or not is unimportant. Perhaps you can continue negotiating with the king of the seas to see if you can marry another daughter to him. After speaking, Amphitrite turned her gaze to Hera. Queen of the gods, you are the deity who presides over marriage. Can you tell me how to dissolve a marital bond? Hera was also inwardly surprised. After brief thought, she said, such a thing has never occurred between heaven and earth. I will need to consult with Themis, mistress of justice, later. Marriage was within her authority, but the goddess who created the laws of marriage, invented the concept of family, and defined the duties between men and women was Themis, mistress of justice. Very well. I will await your answer on the sea. Amphitrite ignored her parents and didn't even glance at Poseidon. Steering the ark, she disappeared over the vast sea with the remaining humans. Because of the matter Amphitrite raised, Zeus didn't even mind her taking away the remaining bronze humans. Polos smiled, watching Amphitrite's arrival. He had already created a brand new land on the sea for these bronze humans to live on. However, the arrival of these humans was just the beginning. They were to endure Amphitrite's tyrannical rule, obeying this goddess of the sea out of fear. This was a necessary precondition for Amphitrite to become the tyrant. By now, Typhon was completely suppressed. The gods of Olympus had achieved victory. Hestia, the eldest sister of the king of gods, was the first to withdraw from the battle. Looking at the suppressed Typhon, then gazing towards the sea where the bronze humans had vanished, a beautiful smile appeared on her face. Olympus had won the war, and the bronze humans would not be completely extinct. The development of this era perfectly aligned with her expectations. In Hestia's heart, a faint light seemed to slowly emerge. Those mysterious powers representing the mystery sequence suddenly sublimated at this moment. She eagerly anticipated how much help becoming the god of fantasy would bring to the faith god path. The mystery sequence was merely a pleasant surprise, the faith god path was her true heart's desire. Hestia had always been clear about what she wanted to do. Among all the gods, only Athena noticed something. Because when Hestia moved away from the battlefield, a green leaf pressed tightly against Athena's chest grew slightly warm, as if stirred by Hestia's actions. Could it be that she actually has a connection with Polos? This green leaf was given to her by Polos when they first separated, representing victory among the 10 foundations of the Tree of Life. Poseidon, why do you remain silent? Zeus, king of the gods, didn't notice Hestia's change, but was more focused on Poseidon, even feeling somewhat amused. Poseidon, king of the seas, known for his fiery temper, had remained eerily silent from start to finish after his wife spoke of severing ties, not uttering a single word. Zeus felt that something particular must have happened between this couple. Nothing to say. Changing the sea queen might be for the best. His offhand remark stunned the gods, while Oceanus, lord of the ocean, grew anxious. Poseidon, don't be impulsive. Oceanus, father to thousands of children, had always been concerned about his numerous offspring's futures. He truly didn't want to lose a son-in-law who was a king of the seas just like that. Although Poseidon, king of the seas, had been targeting their family both openly and covertly recently, as long as the Sea Queen remained and her authority was intact, they could still gain many benefits. If things proceeded as Amphitrite suggested, severing ties with Poseidon, what would become of her many younger siblings without divine portfolios? HMPH. Poseidon snorted coldly, completely ignoring Oceanus. His trident, seemingly carrying the might of the entire ocean, plunged fiercely into one of Typhon's heads. All his shame and fury were to be vented upon Typhon. Ah! Typhon, ancestor of all monsters, cried out in pain and roared, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades. You cannot kill me. As a child of the Earth Mother, he had once received a blessing from Earth Mother Gaia. Standing upon the earth, he possessed infinite strength. Though gravely wounded, he simply would not die. Drag him into the sky, then dismember him. Soon, the three brothers of Zeus devised a plan. They were about to join forces to separate Typhon from the earth. But at that very moment, a benevolent female voice suddenly echoed between heaven and earth, heard by all the gods. Typhon, for his arrogance, disrespect towards the king of gods, and disruption of order, shall be punished. In the name of the Earth Mother, I banish him to the abyss, to suffer endless torment within. After the voice spoke, the earth beneath Typhon's feet suddenly transformed into a vortex. A sinister, dark space at the vortex's end displayed a power that seemed ready to swallow the entire world. The abyss, Tartarus. The three brothers of Zeus looked at each other, filled with wariness. This power flooded into Typhon's body in an instant, making the body of the ancestor of all demons grow even larger, nearly piercing through the heavens and the earth. Instead of entering the abyss as Earth Mother Gaia had said, he grew even more powerful. Typhon's head broke through the blockade of the divine power and laws of the three brothers of Zeus. It was as if the power of the world's origin striking his body caused him no pain at all. Typhon roared, letting out a sound even louder than Zeus's, thunder and lightning. He seemed to have lost consciousness, with nothing left in his heart but slaughter, destruction, and ruin, authorities that did not belong to him, yet were inexplicably held in his hands. In an instant, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were all blown away, unable to withstand Typhon's sudden, immense power. Tartarus, what are you doing? Zeus immediately realized that this was not Typhon's power, but the near-primordial abyssal power of Typhon's father, Tartarus. Earth Mother Gaia had opened the passage to the abyss, claiming she would imprison Typhon within it. But the power of the abyss did not pull Typhon in, instead, it used the opportunity to make him even stronger, to the point where even the three brothers could hardly contend with him. This first sovereign had finally made his move, standing in opposition to Zeus. Zeus, you agreed to give me the souls of all the bronze humans, yet now you have broken your promise. Today, I will first let you see the difference between a so-called king of the gods and a sovereign, lest you act willfully by relying on your authority. Tartarus's words caused Zeus's expression to change instantly. He hadn't expected that Tartarus's sudden intervention was over such a trivial matter. Zeus no longer wanted to mock Poseidon, he only wanted to retrieve all the humans who had vanished at sea. However, when he looked upon the seas, the ark and the humans had completely disappeared. Forget Zeus, even Poseidon, the king of the seas, could not find their location for the moment. Poseidon was called the king of the seas, but he did not fully possess the authority over the entire ocean. He could not, like Earth Mother Gaia, know everything upon the earth simply by wishing to. Clearly, these humans could not be handed over to Tartarus immediately. It seems you have also discovered that those humans are hidden somewhere unknown. Should you not pay the price for your broken promise? Typhon spoke, but all the gods knew that the one truly speaking was Tartarus, the primal sovereign. After he finished speaking, divine laws erupted violently along with Typhon's 100 heads and 100 arms. Countless wings flapped, continuously pouring the power of the abyss into the earth, mixing it with the land, the sea, and the sky. The entire world seemed to have a tendency to fall into chaos. Tartarus, what are you doing? This was not our agreement. Earth Mother Gaia spoke up, also rebuking Tartarus. Tartarus sneered, Gaia, your request was only to preserve Typhon's life. Have I not done so? It was only then that the gods came to a sudden realization. Had it not been for Earth Mother Gaia's deliberate indulgence, Tartarus's power could never have easily appeared upon the earth. There were only two ways. One was to break through the blockade of the two gods, Ether and Hemera, and come toward the sky. The other was to obtain the consent of the realms of night and eternal silence and emerge from the underworld. But now, Gaia's indulgence had directly given Tartarus a third possibility. What made the gods even more uneasy was that Tartarus did not seem to intend to follow Gaia's script, he had other plans. This world should not be dominated by your family alone, Gaia. The power of the abyss needs to be able to interfere with the material realm. In the years since our birth from chaos, the earth has grown increasingly prosperous, yet my realm has remained cold, silent, and obscure. If this continues, I fear you will leave me far behind. Perhaps I would follow in Eros's footsteps and be killed by you to facilitate the proliferation and growth of the earth. Tartarus's words caused Polos, who was standing not far from Hestia and watching her ascension, to be surprised. He hadn't expected to hear such a secret. As one of the 5 primal sovereigns, representing lust and procreation, had Eros actually been killed by Earth Mother Gaia? Come to think of it, it was indeed possible. Eros, a god from the beginning of creation, had never appeared again since the War of Obscurity around the time the first king of the gods took rule. Yet his authority had been supporting the evolution of the entire world. The one who benefited most was naturally Earth Mother Gaia, who birthed many gods and served as the foundation of the material realm. Polos watched the confrontation between the earth and the abyss like a spectator, even revealing his true form without any concealment. At this moment, no gods noticed him. Or rather, even if they had, it was not the time to deal with him. What nonsense are you talking about? I did not kill Eros. Proliferating the heavens and earth and expanding the world were his own suggestions. Faced with Tartarus's accusation, Earth Mother Gaia flatly denied it. Whether you killed him or not is unimportant. Tartarus looked at Zeus, grandson of Uranus, son of Cronus. I can take Typhon away, but I need a new promise from you. What promise? Zeus's face was cold as he looked at Tartarus, who appeared in Typhon's form. He had realized that the so-called broken promise was merely Tartarus's excuse. This was his true objective. The abyss shall be connected to the material realm and no longer be isolated from the world. The material realm, commonly known as the world between heaven and earth, is the dwelling of many gods and the place where all life resides. This world was formed with Earth Mother Gaia as its foundation and is the realm that evolved the fastest given the presence of numerous gods. Zeus had not expected Tartarus to make such a demand. Without a second thought, he flatly refused, that is impossible. You will agree. Tartarus suddenly struck, not at the 3 kings, but at the other gods of Olympus. Aside from Hestia, who was far away with her eyes closed, leaving the gods unaware of what she was doing, the remaining 8 main gods of Olympus were all nearby. Not long ago, they had attacked Typhon, using him as a stepping stone to demonstrate the power of Olympus to the gods. And now, Tartarus intended to use them to threaten Zeus. Tartarus suddenly acted, reaching for Hera, Aphrodite, and Zeus's 6 children. Seeing this, the 3 brothers of Zeus were startled and quickly channeled the world's origin power, trying to restrain Typhon. But this, Typhon, was no longer something they could restrain. He seemed to effortlessly swallow the divine powers and laws of the 3 brothers of Zeus into the endless power of the abyss, then let out a light chuckle, King of the gods, King of the seas, King of the underworld. Hey, let alone compared to Uranus, you are even far behind Cronus. These words made the expressions of the 3 kings even uglier. Yet facing Tartarus, the 3 brothers of Zeus were truly powerless, nearly forced to watch as Hera and the other gods fell into his hands. Just then, the earth suddenly gave way, causing Tartarus's body to sink. Immediately after, a black curtain seemed to drape down from the horizon. Night arrived, and the entire world was plunged into darkness. If the abyss was a great power that swallowed and destroyed everything, then this darkness was one that covered and shielded everything. Aside from the vast night, nothing else was knowable or visible. Nyx, are you going to join forces with Gaia to oppose me? Tartarus's voice sounded cold and harsh, containing an unspeakable fury. Hey, Tartarus. A beautiful voice drifted out from the night. If you want to interfere with the material realm, do it by your own strength. If you want to achieve it through threats, Gaia won't agree, and neither will I. HMPH, by my own strength. Tartarus sneered. If that fool Erebus hadn't been bewitched by you back then, sacrificing himself to eternal silence so you could give birth to space and daylight, how could your knight ever have interfered with the material realm? Talking about one's own strength. Now, you certainly make it sound like it's only natural. Nyx's voice remained beautiful, showing no anger. The events of those years were not as you think. Haha, Nyx, you are even better at pretending than Gaia. I won't say more to you. I'll take these gods back to the abyss today, and I'll deal with you another time when there's a chance. Although night had descended, Tartarus had ultimately seized the initiative. The abyss had already reached the divine powers and laws of these gods. Typhons, several giant hands smashed the rising earth barriers layer by layer, reaching for the 8 gods within. At this moment, all the gods, including Hera, queen of the gods, had absolutely no means of resistance within the realms of the 3 primal sovereigns. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, seemed to hear something. She suddenly smiled and then reminded the gods, in the darkness, even Tartarus cannot easily see us, he can only sense our presence through divine power and laws. Transform into the shape of animals and restrain your divine power and laws, and you will be able to escape. At her reminder, Apollo, god of light, first transformed into a divine eagle, and Hermes, the divine messenger, turned into an ibis. Sure enough, Typhon could no longer attack them. Thus, the other gods followed suit. Hephaestus, god of the forge, turned into a bull, and Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, turned into a fish. Ares, god of war, seemed to notice Aphrodite's transformation and actually turned into a fish as well, chasing after her. This scene was noticed by Artemis, goddess of the hunt. She immediately turned into a cat, a swimming cat, and lunged toward the fish in the water. Only Hera, queen of the gods, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom, remained without making any animal transformations. Hera asked Athena in confusion, Athena, why haven't you transformed yet? Athena smiled mysteriously, I have a way to escape. No one knew that Athena had been clutching a green leaf in her hand. If it truly came to a point of despair, this green leaf could bring her hope. The voice from just now had also been transmitted to her by the green leaf. She did not know what Polos intended to do, yet she still cooperated. Finally, Hera also began to transform, turning into a cow and completely restraining her divine power and laws. The giant hand of Typhon immediately grabbed toward Athena. Just as Athena was about to swallow the green leaf, a voice suddenly came, there is no need to rush this matter, I will help you. At this critical moment, a familiar youth appeared beside Athena. There was a holy light that, as if naturally restraining darkness, became the only place in the night that could be illuminated. All the gods saw this scene. Polos. Zeus gave a cold snort, recognizing him. So it's you. Poseidon also recognized this familiar holy light. Back then among the herd of horses, it was such a similar light that had swapped his Demeter for a real mare. Poseidon didn't actually care much about doing something with a mare, but being witnessed by Amphitrite in person made him lose all face before his wife. This time, when Amphitrite said she wanted to break off relations with him in front of all the gods, Poseidon didn't say a word, partly because of that incident. Now, knowing the holy light was related to Polos, the rage in his heart was almost greater than Zeus's. Is he Polos? How does he dare? The other gods might not necessarily know Polos, but they had certainly heard the name. The son of Métis, the foster son of Hera, the god of opportunity and creation whom the Olympian pantheon had been hunting all this time. Even before Demeter took the last seat of the main gods in place of Hades, king of the underworld, Zeus had promised that whoever could obtain the divine artifact in Polos' hands could become the 12th main god. Naturally, that opportunity was gone now, but queen of the gods Hera's promise remained valid. Whoever brought Polos before her could marry Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Zeus, rest assured, I will take good care of your wife and daughter. After Polos appeared, he gave a light laugh that spread throughout heaven and earth. Under the watchful eyes of all, he actually grabbed Athena and rode with her, one behind the other, on the cow that Hera had transformed into. While passing the water, he picked up a beautiful mother cat. This cat also held a fish in its mouth. On Mount Olympus, there were 12 seats for the main gods, 6 of whom were goddesses. Looking at his posture, he had actually swept up the remaining 4 goddesses, aside from Hestia, goddess of the hearth, and Demeter, goddess of harvest. One of them was even the queen of the gods for god King Zeus. The eagle and ibis flying in the sky, the bull running on the ground, and another fish in the water didn't care about any of this. They immediately followed the direction pointed by Polos's light, wanting to escape along with it. Snatching things from my hands, young god, who exactly gave you the courage? Tartarus, the abyss, seeing Polos ignore him so completely, was instantly enraged and grabbed toward Polos. However, the power of the earth and the power of the night emerged simultaneously, blocking all of his hundreds of giant hands. As expected, at this time, Earth Mother Gaia and Nyx are both my assists. The reason Polos chose to act at this time was because he was certain Earth Mother Gaia and Nyx would definitely help him intercept the abyss. Of course, if they didn't intercept Tartarus, it wouldn't be a big problem. The Staff of Life was still not in Polos's hands, so he could resurrect there at any time. Coming here this time had no other purpose than to help Hestia, goddess of the hearth, turn the torrent of the era she envisioned into reality. As long as Hestia became the god of fantasy, Amphitrite could also become a tyrant later on. The pathways they were both on were under God. By then, with their support, Polos would already be equivalent to half a pillar-level Great Old One. Whether spreading faith in this world or intervening in the evolution of heaven and earth, he would have a place, unlike before when he could only watch Zeus constantly find opportunities to strengthen his own authority. At this moment, in the eyes of the gods, the world was in an extremely eerie atmosphere. The world was pitch black, the power of the night fell from high above, and the power of the abyss surged from beneath the earth, meeting on the ground. And the earth was not pure earth, it had long been flooded by seawater, becoming a realm of water. Added to the turmoil of Typhon, volcanoes and earthquakes appeared everywhere and had not completely subsided to this day. Ancient laws such as the sky, earth, ocean, abyss, mountains, and night intertwined, becoming incredibly chaotic. Yet there was a faint but incomparably holy light that was so conspicuous within the endless darkness. All the gods knew that for this holy light to still illuminate its surroundings in a place where night and the abyss coexisted, it was not simple. Within the holy light, Polos and Athena rode the cow that queen of the gods Hera had turned into. In his arms, he held the cat that Artemis, goddess of the hunt, had turned into, and the cat's mouth bit the fish that Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, had turned into. This scene appeared so bizarre, yet so eye-catching. Could it be that another great war similar to the War of Obscurity is about to arrive? The last time there was such a chaotic era was when Uranus, the first king of gods, brought his brothers Pontus, the ancient sea god and ancient mountain god Urea to seize the position of god king with the support of the Earth Mother. In Gu era, there were not many gods in the world. The gods had only heard that all the primordial and near-primordial powers such as the sky, earth, ocean, mountains, abyss, night, Erebus, daylight, space, and desire constantly fought. As for what specifically happened during that time, the current gods were not clear. They only knew that the sky and earth achieved victory, Uranus became the first king of the gods, and his mother Earth Mother Gaia became the first queen of the gods. Uranus's 2 brothers completely became the rulers of the mountains and the ocean, and the entire material realm was under their control. Eros, the lord of desire representing procreation, disappeared, and Erebus of the underworld, representing the junction of the material and non-material realms, the meeting of the living world and the underworld, never appeared again. They were perhaps the biggest losers of that struggle. Tartarus, the abyss, hid within the underworld. Nyx seized half of the firmament, while the other half belonged to her daughter Hemera. In short, the subsequent changes in heaven and earth were all inextricably linked to that great war where various powers converged. Now, the gods seemed to see the shadow of the war from the era of obscurity, and their hearts were filled with anxiety. In their view, the current world was already good enough and did not need to continue evolving. No one dared to be certain whether the final result would be a more prosperous world or a complete return to chaos. But thinking of Polos's destiny and the strange holy light he displayed, this omen became more and more obvious. Tartarus, stop. I can promise you that a river of the underworld will flow into the abyss as a connection between the abyss and the earth. But in exchange, the main gods of Olympus and the gods of the underworld can all freely enter and exit the abyss. You need to carve out a piece of land to serve as the hell of the underworld. Zeus's gaze was cold as he watched Polos patting Hera's backside. The speed was not slow, and he was about to move away from the influence of the abyss. He finally spoke. The world today was moving in the direction he envisioned. There was no need to let his path as God King be affected because of Tartarus's business. Moreover, compared to Tartarus, he was even more wary of Polos. Good. Tartarus didn't care why Zeus's contrast before and after was so great. He was clearly going to give up this time, but unexpectedly Zeus actually agreed. Under the current situation, with Earth Mother Gaia and Nyx joining forces, he simply could not stop these gods. He thought it was worth it to exchange a part of the abyss for a river of the underworld connecting the abyss and the earth. Zeus, what are you thinking, actually joining forces with Tartarus? Are you crazy? Earth Mother Gaia's voice came from the depths of the earth. Are you not afraid that he will devour the entire world in the future? Zeus began to sneer. My dear grandmother, if I remember correctly, the first one to join forces with the abyss should have been you, right? How did Typhon come to be? And how do you plan to deal with him? Do you want me to tell the gods once more? Earth Mother Gaia fell silent and did not speak again. Typhon was the son of her and Tartarus, but their cooperation was limited to dealing with a possible alliance between Nyx and Zeus. She absolutely did not want Tartarus to intervene in the material realm after Nyx was able to interfere with it. It seems I've wasted my efforts. Zeus, you're on your own. After Zeus made his decision, Nyx was the first to withdraw her power, while also transmitting her voice to Zeus. As the price for this intervention, let my son Charon become the fairy god of that river of the underworld. What do you think? Nyx and Erebus of the underworld had conceived 3 children together. The gods had always only known their third child was named Charon, but since his birth, he had never possessed any divine portfolio, nor did the gods know what kind of divine power he possessed. Now, letting him become the fairy god of that river of the underworld to limit the influence of the abyss in the material realm, Zeus actually felt this might be the most suitable choice and immediately nodded in agreement. Tartarus did not know about this conversation between Nyx and Zeus. After Nyx dispersed her power, he also dispersed his own power, intending to control Typhon and return to the abyss. At this moment, Zeus suddenly spoke again. What, Lord of the Abyss, do you not plan to take those remaining human souls of yours? You're giving them to me. Tartarus was incredibly surprised. He hadn't even planned on wanting those souls anymore, but unexpectedly Zeus offered them to him proactively. Zeus said coldly, not just any god can defy my orders. Tartarus, go take those human souls from Amphitrite yourself. Olympus will not interfere in this matter. Haha, Amphitrite, the second daughter among Oceanus's thousands of children. Very well, I'm coming for you. Tartarus controlled Typhon's body and strode toward the ocean. Both Zeus and Poseidon acted as if they hadn't seen it. Because of Amphitrite's actions, Zeus had been put in a passive position. It was inconvenient for him to personally act against Amphitrite. But wasn't it only right for Tartarus to reclaim the soul that belonged to him? Good cow, hurry along, or I fear I'll be in danger. Just as Zeus and Tartarus reached an agreement, Polos happened to leave the area covered by the abyss. He continued to pat Hera's bovine backside, heading toward the sea. Polos, since you've come, don't think of leaving. Die. Zeus's voice, filled with indifference, resonated between heaven and earth. Not far away, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, had a flash in her eyes upon her calm face as she sent a telepathic message to Polos. Do you need me to stop Zeus? Just moments ago, she had completed her promotion, becoming the god of fantasy representing omnipotence in the mental domain. No need. For now, stay in the temple of Olympus, there's no rush to turn against Zeus. Also a telepathic message, an ability belonging to the mystery system, making Hestia, goddess of the hearth, slightly stunned. You also master the authority of the god of fantasy. Perhaps. She didn't know that on this system, Polos was always a bit higher than angels like them who represented the foundations. Polos didn't intend to tell her that he wasn't a sequence the dreamer, but rather a small part of a great old one. After Zeus's voice fell, thunderous light reappeared in the sky. Polos, Zeus has made his move. Get off me quickly, you're making this very difficult for me. Hera's voice came from the mouth of the cow beneath Polos, sounding very anxious. Though Hera was powerless before Tartarus, her strength was not poor. Over the years, as the Olympian pantheon grew, her authority as the queen of the gods had been steadily increasing. At this point, she was already capable of establishing her own divine system. It was only because the mortal world was not yet prosperous enough that Hera hadn't decided which divine portfolios would be primary and which would be secondary for her divine system, so she hadn't taken that step yet. But it was certain that her strength exceeded that of Amphitrite, Queen of the Sea, before her sequence promotion. Hera knew she was being ridden out by Polos, and far from being dissatisfied, she was actually somewhat happy in her heart. Even the three brothers of Zeus dared not enter the battlefield of the primal sovereigns, yet Polos had bravely charged in and rescued her. She sighed inwardly. Polos still had feelings for her. It wasn't in vain that she had nursed him for 5 years. However, at this time, Zeus had colluded and traded with Tartarus, the abyss, even disregarding his past promises to strike at Polos. Anxious, Hera wanted Polos to quickly take Athena and get off her so she could stop Zeus. Polos didn't give Hera the chance. Looking at the lightning gathering high in the sky, he suddenly laughed. Lightning. I can do that too. As he spoke, he pointed toward the sky. The authority belonging to the tyrant naturally spread, and the lightning brewing in the sky actually dissipated directly. The tyrant pathway, at sequence 1, is called the god of thunder and has already touched upon the authority of lightning. After Polos became a sequence tyrant, this authority grew accordingly, directly dissipating the lightning invoked by Zeus. He wanted to test the difference between the authority of the mystery system and the original authority of this world. At the same time, he wanted to know the combat power of the mystery sequences to plan for future arrangements. After dissipating the lightning Zeus had summoned, he even manipulated the lightning to strike down toward where Zeus was. This scene left the gods stunned. Since the birth of heaven and earth, only Zeus, the third-generation god-king, had mastered the authority of lightning. Often, it was seen by the gods and countless living beings as the punishment of the heavens. Precisely because he mastered the authority of lightning and touched upon the laws of lightning, the gods believed that Zeus was indeed the destined god-king, more suitable than Hades or Polos to lead the divine court. But now, son of Zeus Polos also possessed the authority of lightning and even struck it directly at Zeus. Although they didn't know the source of his authority, being able to control lightning meant he truly might be the fourth-generation god-king who would overthrow Zeus. In their hearts, the gods couldn't help but ponder. When would Zeus, like his grandfather and father before him, be overthrown by his own son? After Polos displayed the authority of lightning and even touched the laws of lightning with divine power, the anger in Zeus's heart grew even stronger. Hera and lightning were his personal domains, which he allowed no other god to touch. Now, the divine cow that Hera had transformed into was being ridden by him, and his unique authority over lightning had been stolen. Zeus could no longer endure it and said coldly, "Let me see what power the lightning you master truly has." With that, he grasped his divine artifact, lightning. This was a divine artifact birthed by heaven and earth, representing the source of lightning. The lightning striking toward him vanished instantly the moment the artifact appeared. At the same time, Polos felt a surging will contending with him for control over the authority of lightning. Clearly, this will originated from Zeus. Polos was not at all afraid, confronting Zeus head-on through the mystical presence of the authority. Thus, the gods witnessed an unprecedented spectacle. In the sky, thunder constantly appeared, lightning flashed, but before it could strike anywhere, it immediately vanished. This scene played out across every corner of the sky. They all understood that this was God King Zeus and Polos, the son of Métis, contending for the authority of lightning. Polos could feel that Zeus's will was very powerful, as expected of a god king. If he only had the strength of a sequence tyrant, it would likely be quite difficult to contend with this will of Zeus. However, Polos was not just a sequence tyrant. Besides being a tyrant, he also possessed some characteristics of the great old one that the god of fantasy pointed toward. Even without using the power of the faith god path system, it was enough for him to contend with Zeus for the authority of lightning. For a moment, they actually reached a stalemate. Polos didn't care about this stalemate, but God King Zeus absolutely could not allow himself to fail in front of so many gods. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated and took out the lightning divine artifact. This divine artifact was the manifestation of the lightning source of the entire universe. With Zeus wielding it, it was as if he himself was the lightning source of the universe. This level of status was comparable to the earth for Gaia or the night for Nyx. Polos finally couldn't hold it back anymore. At this moment, all control over the authority of lightning fell into Zeus's hands. Vast thunder fell all around Polos, threatening him. But Polos didn't care, his authority was not lost, he just couldn't outcompete Zeus at this moment. If he couldn't win the contest, so be it, his divine path was not entirely based on lightning. Thinking of this, a massive storm suddenly rose from the sea, hurricanes and torrential rain spread out, blasting a path through the countless bolts of lightning. Using holy light to clear a path through the storm and lightning, Polos rode the divine cow, holding Athena, along with the cat and fish in his arms, proceeding leisurely. Storm. Authority over the sea. The gods were stunned once again and looked toward Poseidon. The power of storms had always belonged to Poseidon, king of the seas. Now, Polos actually possessed the power of storms in addition to lightning, which was quite unexpected. The gods thought that since he already mastered parts of Zeus's and Poseidon's divine power attributes, did he also master part of Hades's divine power attributes? Regarding Hades, king of the underworld, beyond his authority over the underworld, the gods actually didn't know what specific attributes his divine power possessed. This eldest son of Cronus, unlike his two younger brothers, had always kept himself deeply hidden. At this moment, Hades remained silent, and Poseidon roared angrily, thinking of escaping to the sea. Did I agree to that? Zeus, stop playing around. This kid cannot be allowed to live. The two brothers, one holding a trident and the other a lightning spear, attacked toward Polos. It seems I really have to let you go this time. Polos understood that with Zeus having made his deal with the abyss and himself showing his strength, it would be impossible to leave easily. He patted the backside of the divine cow Hera had transformed into once more and said, "Next time I have the chance, I'll ride you again." Then, holding Athena, he flipped down and took the fish from Artemis's mouth, putting it into the bag on his person. Artemis, I've accepted your gift. That fish was, of course, Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Polos had once given her a chance to become his first subordinate god, even intending for her to take charge of beauty, one of the 10 foundations, in the future. But Aphrodite had disappointed Polos, she had directly betrayed him on Mount Olympus. That's the end of part 3. Part 4 is coming soon.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and support our channel for more stories.